Welcome to We Sing Dinosaurs. Deinonychus lived in the early Cretaceous period, after Allosaurus and before Tyrannosaurus rex.
One of the most fearsome hunters wasn't big at all. He measured close to 10 feet long and only 5 feet tall. Deinonychus, with his powerful jaw. Deinonychus, with his terrible claws. When they spied a likely foe, they'd race to the attack.
I actually really like this song.
With his powerful jaw, Deinonychus, with his terrible
This song
claws. His arms were long to hold his prey, sharp claws were used to grip. But the deadly claw was on his foot, the one he used to rip. Deinonychus, with his powerful jaw. Deinonychus, with his terrible claw. He was a big dinosaur, but will the doctor say he must have been the very fierce hunter on the shore. Deinonychus, with his powerful jaw. Deinonychus, with his terrible claw.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Paleontologizing. It's really good to have all of you here. And welcome to kind of a special broadcast today, because it was on this very day, 60 years ago, according to a source that I have, that Deinonychus was first discovered, a dinosaur that helped change the way that we look at dinosaurs. Arguably one of the most important dinosaurs ever discovered. And Elias, thank you for the 28 months of support. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I dig.
How are
You
you?
dig. She digs.
Yeah.
They dig. They dig. It's not a beautiful poem, but it's very deep.
Elias, thank you for keeping me online for the past 28 months. I really appreciate that. Thank you. We're gonna have a fun stream today. And I'm glad you're here for it. Oh, and hello, Sweetie Pie. I'm glad you're here too. Hello. How are you doing, sweetie? If anybody's here for the very first time, allow me to introduce myself real quick. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, and I'm here on Twitch trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach, where I'm not being thwarted by cats, at least. What's all that going on, Sweetie Pie?
Observation. You couldn't see a thing. Conclusion. Dinosaurs.
Twitching with Tritops. Thank you for the 3 months right there. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Good stuff. That is lovely. Sweetie Pie, you were right in front of the camera. Yeah. Anyway. Shoot, did I do an introduction yet? Welcome everybody. If it's your first time here, let me introduce myself. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. And, I'm here on Twitch trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach. So, talking about fossils, talking about natural history, talking about my own work on dinosaurs and the work of my colleagues and other people in the field. As a dinosaur paleontologist, I work on dinosaurs, I publish on dinosaurs, I talk about dinosaurs on weekdays here on Twitch, except during the peak of, during most of the summer, I'm usually out digging up dinosaurs, and we've got 2 cats on the desk right now. Holy cow. Holy moly. Let's get the cat cam fired up. Wow, all this feline action. Mini Pie and Sweetie Pie. My goodness. Get your butt out of the camera, Minnie. Kitty City, yes indeed, Lordy. I don't need desk space today. Apparently not, Jody Fish. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I dig up dinosaurs during the summers, and that's what we were streaming. all summer long. Nearly all summer long. I was out there for almost 2 months this year, out digging dinosaurs in Wyoming and Utah. At least 3 new species of dinosaur we were excavating this past summer. That was pretty exciting, and we were able to stream that nearly every day in the field. Something like 50 or 60 live streams this summer, live from the field. It was pretty excellent. Yeah. And not Grand Staircase, near Moab, Utah, so kind of near Arches National Park, in the earliest Cretaceous Cedar Mountain Formation. So digging up dinosaurs from the very, very beginning of the Cretaceous, right after that Jurassic Cretaceous extinction event. Yeah, we had a brand new iguanodontian dinosaur that we were excavating. And done Dystrophias. Interesting. Oh, okay. Very cool. Another Utah dinosaur. Excellent. Well, it's good to have you here, twitching with Triceratops. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Yeah. Mini Pie and Sweetie Pie. Yes, indeed. Cosmological Kev. Yeah. We've got 2 cats here right now. Here, let's, and Dr. Foster. Oh, yeah. Hey, I know John. Yeah. Wait, was that, that's John Foster, right? Because there's John and then there's Rebecca Hunt Foster, too. They're a paleo power couple. Oh, and Rebecca, too. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, so I was working with Jim Kirkland this summer, the state paleontologist of Utah, working for the Utah Geological Survey. Yeah. Usually work with Randy Irmis. Very nice. Oh, very cool. Curator of the Museum of Salt Lake, NHMU. Very cool. Tritops, well, it's good to have you here. Yeah. And used to work with him at DNR. Very cool. Yeah. Jim shows up here in the chat with kind of regular frequency. But let me pull up a VOD with Jim. Oh. I'll see you later, sweetie pie. Here. And Player Rex1 says, "Hey, Denny, this is James from the Wyoming Dig." Well, hello, James. How are you doing? Wow, everybody's here today. This is awesome. James, I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you. James works at the museum at Thanksgiving Point in Lehigh, Utah. Here we go. Oh, here's Jim talking about
this particular valley here. I know you're fond of saying that you could have, what, 100 crews out here every summer for 1,000 years. What's the
Oh yeah,
line?
I mean this site just keeps going and going.
Yeah.
There's Jim right there.
You know, and we're just starting to get below. You still got root mats coating all our bones here.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like, you know, we're not into really pristine stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, Jim Hyperbole Kirkland? I would never say anything like that.
But it's true.
Yeah.
Covers a huge area here, and
So there's Don DeBlue, the assistant Utah State Paleontologist.
1,000 crews for 100 years.
well, at the rate we're going, 5,000 years.
Yeah.
You know, a couple weeks here, but it's not going away. You know, and it's always, you know, I've published stuff with John Foster on managing mega sites.
Sure.
Because,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of sites, you find a dinosaur, you dig it up, and the site's gone. You know,
Yeah.
you dug up the site. This is a site like big archaeologic sites like Chaco and things. This site is always going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Almost inexhaustible.
researchers are going to be wanting to approach with new techniques.
Yeah.
And things like, and you know, this is way bigger.
Yeah. Anywho, yeah. Anyway, James, I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you. Mini Pie is really going ham for the camera right now. Let me get her some treats, and then we can talk a little bit more. Would you like that, Mini Pie? Would you like that? Let's make that happen. Ooh, here we go. Not to get too many, because you've not been super keen on eating them so far. She's not been cleaning her plate, so to speak. Oh, good stuff. Yeah. You want some more? Let's get you some more. There you go. Oh, hungry today. Aren't we, Mini Pie? Good stuff. Corsi says a happy birthday to Deinonychus, the terrible claw. Lovely Deinonychus and Velociraptor cast. Thank you, Corsi. Thank you, thank you. We'll be talking all about Deinonychus today and other dromaeosaurs like Velociraptor. And, but in particular, we'll be talking about Deinonychus and how it helped change the way that we think about dinosaurs. The discovery of Deinonychus was of tremendous importance to the history of dinosaur paleontology. So we'll be talking about that today. Anyway, and Twitching with Tritops said something earlier. Jim is the one who told me the girls could do science. I owe him everything. Absolutely, yeah. Jim is, he makes an excellent mentor. I'll say that. And I'm proud to work with him.
The terrible lizards.
And, Jesus, gracias por seguirme. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Good to have you here. Anyway, yeah, good stuff. And did Jim receive his birthday present? Not yet, Kev. I think, let me check the tracking on that. I don't think it's arrived yet. But, let's see. And, oh, it says delivered. Wow, I should text Jim right now. There we go. Anywho, then we'll get into our Deinonychus festivities here. Let's see. Looting emoji. There we go. Sent. Cool. Yeah. And I have a cast of the Deinonychus killing claw. Very cool, the spy. Very, very cool. Yeah, I've got a 3D printed model of a Deinonychus skull right here. This is actually one of the first dinosaur skulls I ever 3D printed. This is life-size, but this is kind of an old version of the skull. Nowadays, we've got reason to think that these guys had a kind of a different shaped skull. A little bit closer to this. Let me find you an image. Let's see. Yeah, a bit more like this. Less kind of triangular in its aspect. And a little bit more similar to, I don't know, Velociraptor, for instance. Or Dromaeosaurus, to the extent that we know what Dromaeosaurus' skull looked like. Big parts of it are still a mystery. But yeah. Anyway. And Eddie Scarin says, Deinonychus was a cannibal and did not hunt in packs. We're still kind of figuring out some of this stuff. The evidence that Deinonychus was a pack hunter is kind of... it's a little bit wishy-washy. We could talk about that today if you'd like to. Yeah. And Claire Burr says, do we have new lines of evidence to show that Velociraptor mongoliensis had a more robust skull? No. It's more that Deinonychus had a more Velociraptor-like skull than the other way around. So there's a Velociraptor skull right there. A cast. Got that from Rob Gaston back in 2014. At least I think it's still Velociraptor. I don't think that one's being reclassified as Saugon or whatever the other Linharaptor or something like that, but there's a possibility that it is. It's a private specimen, that one there, so. But anyway, yeah. Anywho, we do have reason to think that Deinonychus had a taller skull than Velociraptor. Velociraptor, it's got a pretty dorsoventrally compressed snout. So dorsoventrally compressed, that's compressed from top to bottom. Like that, so kind of a long, low snout like this. Deinonychus' snout would have been a bit taller, but not quite as tall and triangular as you see here. Probably a bit more like this, if that makes sense. Yeah. Anyhow. Yeah. Big news for dinosaur gaming. Interesting, Dr. Terra. You. Very cool. Well.
Ontogeny.
Neat. Yeah. And Petrodactylus says that's really good to know. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's accurate or not when searching for reference images. So here's the thing, is that you'll see a lot of different depictions of Deinonychus skulls online, but I don't know if we actually have anything published yet on some of the new material that's come out of Montana in the time since the 1960s. Again, it was 1964. In fact, it might have been on this very day in 1964 that Deinonychus was first discovered. Well, kind of. It's a little bit more complicated than that anyway. John Ostrom usually gets the credit for discovering Deinonychus, but the truth might be a little bit more complicated. Because there was another paleontologist who was digging up Deinonychus back in the 1930s, collecting it for the American Museum of Natural History in New York. Does anybody have a guess as to who that paleontologist might have been who first dug up Deinonychus in the 1930s, but did not name it, did not really study it in detail? Any guesses? Anybody? Wasn't me, Dimwing. No. Wasn't Edward Drinker Cope? No. It wasn't John Ostrom. John Ostrom's not that old. It wasn't O.C. Marsh. It was indeed Claire Burr Barnum Brown. First discovered Deinonychus, it seems. Back in the 1930s. He never officially published on it. He gave it a name, but that name never became official because it wasn't published in the scientific literature. He called it Daptosaurus, which means something like running lizard or something like that. What does Daptosaurus mean? Anyway, we'll look into that a bit more later. Yeah. The Fall Machine says, come on, Truth, can you be simple just for once? Sorry. Oftentimes, the real story is more complicated than we'd like it to be. Yeah. And why would he not have published it? He had a lot of other stuff going on. Yeah. There were a ton of dinosaurs that Barnum Brown discovered but did not name, didn't publish on. In fact, some of the dinosaurs that we were digging up this summer in Wyoming are dinosaurs that Barnum Brown, dug up, but sometimes he didn't even finish digging at the sites. He was a Rolling Stone, Wherever he put his hat was his home. As the song goes. Let me show you. We're digging this up this summer. Go. That's not it. Let's see here. Here we go. There we go.
Welcome, everybody. It is great to have you here. Welcome to wild, beautiful, and windy Wyoming, USA here. Western Wyoming, kind of near the town of Green River. We're digging up
Thank you, Rachel
dinosaur
Darling
here.
Endeavors. There you go, yeah.
I'll be showing you that in just a minute.
Go,
For
Casey,
anybody
yeah.
who's here for the very first time, or maybe you're watching the VOD later on YouTube or something.
That's what we're doing right
My
now?
name is Danny Anduza.
Well.
This is Paleontologizing. Call it that because I'm a paleontologist. A dinosaur paleontologist in particular. Dinosaurs are what I dig up.
Anyway, you
what
get the
I
idea.
study.
Let's skip forward a little bit.
Honor do it. How are you doing? Again, a number of other dinosaurs,
Here we go.
none of which were ever described. Good.
Ontogeny.
Which it looks about rusty enough to be from 1937.
Sure does.
So,
There's Luke right there.
this is probably left here by Barnum Brown's crew when they were digging here in the 30s. We dug up a number of different dinosaurs here, none of which were ever published on, none of which were ever described. So this is a duck-billed dinosaur, and I'll show you in a minute how we can tell that. But right now, this is really cool. Barnum Brown is kind of a legendary figure in dinosaur paleontology.
Yep.
He discovered Tyrannosaurus Rex and a number of other dinosaurs. He went by the nickname Mr. Bones in the media, or
That
Dr.
site was
Bones.
insane, James. Yes.
But he worked at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, and he's kind of world famous. He's one of the first like superstar paleontologists. He got a gig with Sinclair Oil at one point. They sponsored his fieldwork out here. He used to do radio broadcasts, and that's something I want to learn more about. Sorry, my phone strap is getting a little loose. Hang on, everybody. Stand by. Communication from this same area back in 1937. So here we
Anyhow.
are, the better part of a century later, doing the same thing and digging at some of his sites. Yeah, how far is the site from the one you were at yesterday? Says a few miles. I don't know. It's hard to say. Have to check the odometer, I guess. But a few miles away. Yeah.
Anywho, yeah. We will be talking about Barnum Brown a little bit on today's stream, but the star of the show today is really Deinonychus and John Ostrom. Right there. I've got a clip prepared for you here from a documentary from the 1970s featuring John Ostrom talking about his discovery of Deinonychus in the 1960s. Take a look.
Dinosaur actually means terrible lizard, and the skeletons of dinosaurs are similar to these reptiles in many ways.
So this is kind of setting the stage here. This documentary came out in 1977. It's from PBS Nova. It's called The Hot-Blooded Dinosaurs. And this was a new idea at the time, that dinosaurs might have been warm-blooded, dynamic, fast-moving, intelligent, social, bird-like animals. This was a sea change at the time. Big shift in the way that we thought about dinosaurs. And a big part of that was prompted by Deinonychus, as this clip will help demonstrate.
So, like lizards, dinosaurs were thought of as sun-basking, slow-moving, cold-blooded creatures.
Yep. Those are some Komodo dragons right there. Varanus
Now that basic
komodoensis.
model has been challenged. It all started with a new dinosaur being studied at Yale University by
There we
Professor
go.
John Ostrom.
We have right over here.
A frothy mix. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here.
Tyrannosaurus. It's
Domino's
just
out.
about
How are you
probably
doing?
about
Welcome.
How big Deinonychus was. This is the thigh bone, or femur. And you see it's just about the same size as mine,
Not a very big animal.
Deinonychus. But he
Yep.
was...
So this is a really famous illustration. We have it right here. In the office today. So this is an illustration done by Bob Bacher in 1969. I think this accompanied the original descriptive paper for Deinonychus. Bob Bacher was one of John Ostrom's PhD students. And, yeah, many of John Ostrom's ideas were things that Bob Bacher ran with later on. Really kind of built his career on this, the momentum started by Deinonychus. Pretty cool. Yeah. And DM Wing says, I think I had a color version of that illustration in one of my dinosaur books as a kid. It's a very common illustration. It's been copied a million zillion times. So here's the original, right here. Here it is with feathers, nowadays, as we now understand Deinonychus looked. Someone's got it tattooed on their arm right there. That's really cool. Here's a plastic model based on that same illustration. Here's another one right here. It's been copied so many times. Super influential dinosaur illustration. One of the most influential dinosaur illustrations ever produced. Because Deinonychus was such a game changer. This animal helped, like I said, change the way that we think about dinosaurs. Yeah. And Dennis Carpez says, did you see or hear the news about the arrival of that Triceratops skull? It's found in Wyoming? Arriving in the Netherlands. Oh, that means it was on private land. And it must have been sold to somebody in the Netherlands. Hopefully we'll still be able to do science on it, but we'll see. Yeah. Cast the Dreamer says, Deinonychus was one of my favorites as a kid. It's a really cool animal. It's very, very cool. It's honestly one of my favorite dinosaurs as well. Anywho. There's the illustration that helped kind of skyrocket this animal to well-deserved fame.
There's a fellow I wouldn't want to meet on a dark street at night, I'll tell you. This was another surprise in Deinonychus. Here we have a series of tail vertebrae running from the tip of the tail up to the base of the tail, a total length of maybe about 4 feet. And the unusual thing about this series is the fact that tendons along the tail that normally are soft tissue have turned to bone, and they're ossified.
Yep. Ossified tendons.
As far as I know, this is the first time that this particular kind of structure has ever turned up in a carnivorous dinosaur.
I think it had shown up in Velociraptor, discovered in the 1920s in Mongolia. But Velociraptor never really got much attention. I'm not sure if that part even got described in the original paper in 1924. I'd have to look at it. But this is one of the first times that ossified tendons were ever identified in a theropod dinosaur.
When we first saw it, I really didn't know what to think. But then, remember the terrible claw? You think about that foot with that big sickle-like claw that he must have used as a weapon. Remember, he's a two-legged animal, can't walk on all fours. He's got to walk on his hind legs. How is he going to use that claw if he's standing on 2 feet? Impossible. He's got to jump around, leap around, using that claw to strike out at whatever prey or animal he's after. This means that he must have been extremely agile, very quick, good balance control, means a high neurological development. And this tail, that reinforces that picture, because here we have essentially a balancing pole, so that old model. And this is the picture, this discovery is what sort of pushed me over the brink into looking at dinosaurs in a whole new light.
Yep, and that was... John Ostrom really led the charge here in kind of rethinking dinosaurs, not as cold-blooded, sluggish, slow-moving, antisocial, dull-colored, unintelligent, solitary reptiles, but as more bird-like creatures, warm-blooded, active, many of them intelligent, complex social behaviors, just dynamic, vibrant animals in general. Dinosaurs, of course, are a very diverse group, many different shapes and sizes of dinosaurs, lots of different ecosystems, different ecological jobs, different niches that they occupied. So, dinosaurs are a very diverse group, morphologically and ecologically. terms of lifestyle and everything, but many of them, maybe most of them, were far from sluggish. And so that's kind of what this documentary is about. I'll give you a link. It's 1977, and it's from an exciting time in dinosaur paleontology, when these ideas were new and somewhat untested. This was groundbreaking stuff, the idea that maybe dinosaurs were warm-blooded. Maybe they didn't go extinct, not completely. Maybe birds are living dinosaurs. Nowadays, in the year 2024, there is very, very strong agreement that dinosaurs never went completely extinct. Birds are living dinosaurs. We've got multiple lines of evidence that show this. And that's pretty much a done deal. There's a general consensus now. You'd be very hard-pressed to find someone who works on dinosaurs who is not convinced that birds are dinosaurs. We pretty much know for a fact now that birds are dinosaurs. And so some of them survived the KPG extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous. As for dinosaur metabolism, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. We have every reason to believe that dinosaurs like Deinonychus or Velociraptor would have been warm-blooded. And when we say warm-blooded, we mean they generate their own body heat. They don't need to bask in the sun in order to get warm in the morning like crocodiles or turtles or lizards. Like mammals or birds who evolved from dinosaurs, they would generate their own body heat internally by burning calories. Some dinosaurs may have had less elevated metabolisms, so wouldn't have been as warm-blooded. But our general consensus view now is that most, if not all, dinosaurs were endothermic, warm-blooded. They had elevated metabolisms. They generated their own body heat. They maintained their own body temperature by digesting food and burning calories like that. But yeah. Anywho, yeah. And Salamander says, I'm curious on the bright colored thing. Wouldn't the large predatory dinosaurs still have been less on the less colorful side, purely because their prey also had full color vision, and camouflage would have been necessary? It depends, Salamander, yeah. We do have a lot of predatory animals nowadays that are very brightly colored. Yeah, if you're an animal that's going to lie in wait and ambush your prey, it very well might behoove you to be camouflaged. But if you're an animal that's just a pursuit predator, I don't know. Yeah. We do have, when you look at a lot of predatory dinosaurs, like Ceratosaurus, for instance. This is an animal with these pretty dramatic horns on its head, which presumably were for display. I would be surprised if those horns were not brightly colored in some way, because they're meant for showing off. But maybe they only turn brightly colored during the mating season or something like that, or maybe that's something that comes with ontogeny, or who really knows? We do have modern birds that are certainly predatory and are pretty vibrantly colored. Think about like a bald eagle with its stark white head. Although they're primarily feeding on fish. I don't know, there's a lot of like... I'm not going to say that if you're a predatory animal, that means you have to be camouflaged. Because there are a lot of predatory animals today that are not camouflaged. But I think it depends on who you're eating, whom you're trying to sneak up on, all that stuff. What kind of environment you're in. What kind of hunting behavior you're engaged in, too. So yeah, I don't know. But that's a good question, Salamander. It's a good question. And And why are bald eagles white? It's a good question, Pfizer. It's not a male-female difference. Because both males and females have got that stark white head like that. It might be a species recognition thing. It could be a way to keep them from kind of accidentally interbreeding with stellar sea eagles or golden eagles or something like that. I'm not sure. It might be ontogenetic display as well. Being able to show, hey, I'm mature. I've got the adult white head, where a juvenile bald eagle doesn't have that yet. There's a juvenile bald eagle right here. So the white head is a sign of maturity, but why would you have evolutionary selective pressure to show off that maturity level like that? Why do you need to be able to visually send cues that, hey, look at me, I'm mature, I'm an adult? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. There's a lot that we still don't understand about some of these modern animals. And sometimes, in order to figure out why certain extinct creatures had certain morphologies, sometimes we need to go back and figure it out for the modern animals first. That's one of the things that I did with, one of the things I'm doing with this current Spinosaur project.
It's got nothing to do with oil. I'm a
And Geronimo, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. But yeah. Perfect for something I'm working on. Oh, nice, Petrodactylus. Okay, cool. Yeah. And Raythiel, would it be possible to find frozen or otherwise preserved DNA to corroborate these theories? Not for dinosaurs. We've looked high and low, tried our best to find DNA from Mesozoic dinosaurs, and so far, complete lack of success. DNA is a pretty fragile molecule. It doesn't last very long. Maybe a couple million years at the longest. And the oldest non-bird dinosaurs, the oldest non-avian dinosaurs, excuse me, the youngest non-avian dinosaurs, are 66 million years old. And there's, I don't think, any kind of chance that DNA is going to last that long. Especially with as much as we looked for it, and it hasn't turned up. So yeah, you can get soft tissue and stuff like that occasionally. Remnants of red blood cells, blood vessels, collagen, stuff like that. But DNA itself is a very fragile, delicate molecule, and it tends to break up after a certain amount of time. So we don't have that for any non-avian dinosaurs yet. I don't know if we ever will. But it's still worth looking, I think. And, Circules says, if the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs caused all life on Earth to die, and the Earth to turn into a dead rock like Mars, would aliens visiting today even know that dinosaurs existed without digging? Nobody would know. If we hadn't excavated dinosaur fossils, we wouldn't know that they had existed. No. Yeah. Understanding dinosaurs requires paleontology, requires finding fossils, excavating them, studying them. Yeah. It's pretty cool. In a way, dinosaurs are quintessentially modern creatures. Dinosaurs are they're a hallmark of modernity. It's only in the last 200 years that we even knew dinosaurs existed. You can't say that for very many other... for many animals today, you know? The dinosaurs are kind of a... If you look at it a certain way, dinosaurs are a product of our modern age. They're a product of modern science. Yes, they existed tens of millions of years ago. I'm not saying they didn't, but our knowledge of them is very modern. And it's cool to think about, you know? There's a certain irony in that. Dinosaurs being this symbol of modernity while also being tens of millions of years old. Yeah. Anywho, thanks for the question, Circules, yeah. And, Charlie's Dragon says having strikingly orange or red bumps on your head isn't the same as your whole body being bright rainbow, though. No, definitely, you're definitely right about that, Charlie's Dragon. To me, red and orange has a higher chance of camouflaging someone with brown tree branches and such, but I might be biased by predatory mammals being orange, tigers, red foxes, because their mammal prey can't tell red or orange and green apart. There you go. Good point, Charlie's Dragon. Yeah. And Sibley says bald eagles have strong nest site fidelity, so maybe it helps prevent inbreeding. Speculating it. That's an interesting idea, Sibley. Huh. I like that. I wonder if anybody's actually studied this in detail. I wonder if there is an answer to that question that I'm just unaware of, or if it is legitimately a mystery. You know. But one thing's for sure. Bald eagles, their adult plumage, it definitely is something that only comes with ontogeny. Yeah. But yeah. And Haunted Soldier says, ancient people must have found some dinosaur remains because of the folk dragon legends. We talked about that yesterday a little bit, Haunted Soldier. I'm not convinced that dragon legends or any other kind of mythical creature legend has to have any basis in reality. You know, people are imaginative creatures. We're able to come up with all kinds of interesting stories and fantasies and stuff that don't have to be the result of fossils being found, you know? So yeah, I'm not necessarily convinced there's much of a connection at all between dragon legends and dinosaur fossils. But it is something that should be studied more, I think. But every time it's really been looked into, the links have been really tenuous. Doesn't seem to be a strong connection there. Anyhow. Yeah. And DM Wing says there's a Greek vase with a monster that sure looks like a dino skull running out of a hill or something. So this is... Here. There we go. This is a fossil giraffe that's been proposed as there we go, as an inspiration for a particular Greek artifact. Evaluation of the hypothesis of the Monster of Troy vase as the earliest artistic record of a vertebrate fossil. Monster of Troy, depicted as a 6th century BC Corinthian vase, has been proposed to be the earliest artistic record of a vertebrate fossil, possibly a Miocene giraffe, like Samotherium. The purpose of the paper was to analyze the giraffe hypothesis using 4 approaches. All of the participants rejected the giraffe hypothesis. The type of eyes and teeth unambiguously discard a mammal, whether fossil or living, as the model. The model was likely an extant carnivorous reptile of the varanid family. So it might have been like an encounter with an actual monitor lizard that inspired that, rather than something like this. Anyway, yeah. The thing is, fossils are difficult to dig up. And without expertise, you're likely to destroy them. Mark Whitten has argued this pretty convincingly. He's a paleontologist who works on pterosaurs and other critters. Yeah. While it's a really neat idea that, like, oh yeah, ancient people were finding fossils left and right, and they were, you know, interpreting these as being the remains of monsters or whatever. Like, that's a really cool idea. It sparks the imagination. And we want it to be true. But in science, when you want an idea to be true, that's when you've got to be really cautious about it. The easiest person to fool is always yourself, you know? And so, yeah, and anytime it's really been looked into, there's not been a lot of evidence for it. So while we might really want that to be true, it seems at this point like it's mostly just a cool story, you know? Anywho. Frothy mixes. I mean, fire-breathing dragons definitely were the heat source for the steam generators inside the Great Pyramids. Have you been talking with Ben Carson there, a Frothy mix? It's good to have you here. Very funny. Welcome to Paleontologizing. And Ken says it's not like the dig scene in Jurassic Park. Exactly. Shoot. This summer when we were digging up dinosaurs, and I was showing that on camera. Oh, Sweetie Pie is pushing the camera around somewhere. It's funny. A lot of people in the chat were like, "I don't see anything. It just looks like a bunch of dirt." These things are not easy to identify without training, oftentimes. Here we go.
Yeah. It'd be nice to maybe get a second one of those for the crew next year or something. You can have two of those at once, because it's like, I don't know. Anytime that we're doing a bunch of overburden and like shoveling this debris out of the way.
Here, give me a second here. Let's find a different clip. Here we go.
Another chunk of bone, Chunkosaurus there, and the blade of the pubis, one of the hanging down bones on the pelvis, coming down like this.
Nice.
And then the process to probably going up underneath it there.
That's huge.
That's a big one. It's going for this big animal.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, Ken, it's good to see you here. Welcome.
Toe bone. That's pretty nice going in. This is an ossified tendon, I think.
Nice.
You know, going across there. I just started seeing some bone right here that's right tied to this. So, a little playing with that. But yeah, trying to figure out how to come around. It's obviously around there, through here. So I'm trying to take this area down.
Nice.
So I can define the aerial extent of these bones.
Good to see you too, Ken.
So we have multiple bones in this chapter.
We did manage to get these out of the ground. Certainly, Petrodactylus, yeah.
Not huge. I mean, but
there are a few more that we had to leave, but
yeah.
These ones we got out.
Stuff. I mean, there's some really nice bones.
Yeah.
And this will certainly go into the description of this taxa.
Nice. Yeah, Pubis, that's something we can kind of cross-reference with Iguana colossus and show how different they are.
And sharing. Well, but the thing with this guy is it expands laterally, you know, as it goes out distally. And it's pretty much parallel all the end.
Yeah.
Iguana colossus, as far as we can tell. And it's ilia that pre-pubic process, bends down pretty sharply. And this one's fairly straight. I mean, there's a lot of characters.
Yeah.
But the upward curve that we thought linked them together is shared with Camptosaurus in the Jurassic.
And Kennedy, we are absolutely going back next summer if we can, because we've got more bones that we exposed that we weren't able to dig up. Important bones, limb bones. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it's lost, and what gives rise to more derived iguanodonts. But this is so early.
There you go, thing. Yes,
you
exactly.
would expect to see features that we have in Camptosaurus. This thing probably doesn't have a thumb spike.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's real big, but it's a big animal.
Anywho, if you'd like to watch that VOD, here is a link in the chat for you. There you go. Anyway, how are you doing, Sweetie Pie? What's shaking? Would you like some treats? Would you like some treats? She's pushing my camera around. Oh, what's this? Oh, Oh, yeah, that's the good stuff. There you go. There you are. Snack time indeed, Sour Fox, yeah. Sweetie Pie loves these treats. And they're good for her, too. There you go. I like how you ate the dental treats before the catnip treats, Sweetie Pie. It's like you're saving your dessert for last. I think that's wonderful. Nicely done. Yeah. And Roy G. Biv SF, how are you doing? No, not Ceratosaurus. This is Sweetie Pie here. Yeah. Yeah. And is the SF in your name? Roy G. Biv, is that a reference to San Francisco, perchance? Because I happen to be streaming to you live from the San Francisco Bay Area here in sunny, beautiful coastal California. And, yes, well. Awesome. From one Californian to another. Hello. I hope you're doing well. It's good to have you here. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Here, let's take a look at the view. Hang on. The view from the Lawrence Hall of Science up in the Berkeley Hills. Right now. Nice foggy day in the bay. Let me make sure that this is updated. The view from LHS. Yeah. That is the current view right there. Very nice. Beautiful. This updates like once every 5 minutes or something like that. But look at that fog. And I really love the fog. We don't get nearly as much of that fog as we used to due to climate change. But, yeah. Anywho. Yeah. We've gotten way far afield here, but we're talking about Deinonychus. That's the whole point of today's broadcast. Today happens to be the 60th anniversary of the discovery of Deinonychus. Or at least, that's what I'm told in this book right here by Don Glut, keeper of much dinosaur lore. This is my source for our claim that today is the 60th anniversary of the discovery of Deinonychus. There we go. 1964, John S. Ostrom discovers the amazing dromaeosaurid Deinonychus in the Lower Cretaceous Cloverleaf Formation of Montana, naming and describing it 5 years later. This is August 28th, 1964. I've been unable to find further confirmation anywhere online that is the actual date, so I want to be very forthright about that. This is my source right here. Correct or not, that's it. So, yeah, don't want to be cagey about that. T-Pup says about Deinonychus, why do I always see dromaeosaurs covered in feathers now? Are we sure that the entire family looked like that? Pretty sure, T-Pup, yeah. Yeah. So we can kind of tell that via phylogenetic bracketing. We've got multiple sides of the Dromaeosaur family tree, or the Deinonychus family tree, that have feathers. And so we can be pretty darn sure that their ancestor had feathers. If their ancestor had feathers, that means ancestrally they all had feathers. They all would have inherited those feathers from their ancestor. So here's a nice illustration of Dromaeosauridae right here. A little Microraptor and Velociraptor there on the left, to big old Utah Raptor there in the middle. And Deinonychus right up here. Yeah. Dromaeosaurs and Troodontids form a clade called Deinonychusauria. So they're sister groups. And both Dromaeosaurs and Troodontids have both been found with fossil feathers. We've got Velociraptor from Mongolia with those distinctive quill knobs on its arms. We've got Dakotaraptor from South Dakota with its quill knobs too. We've got Microraptor and Sinornithosaurus and Zhenjuanlong. Those are other Dromaeosaurs from China, all with fossil feathers on them. And then we got lots of Troodontids with feathers as well. So, anyway, we can be pretty darn certain that all of these guys had feathers. It would be extraordinary if they didn't. Like, there would have had to be something really weird going on where some of them somehow lost feathers secondarily. Does that make sense? Yeah. Anyhow. Yeah. And very cool, thank you. You bet, T-Pup, yeah. Yeah. Here. Let's talk about that real quick. Did Velociraptor have feathers? Nice little clip from Prehistoric Planet. There's one particular image in here that I want to pause on when we get to.
The bones of dinosaurs are often very well preserved indeed, but that's not the case with the skin or the soft parts. So imagining what they looked like has been largely a matter of guesswork.
To a certain extent, yeah.
Some truly exceptional fossils have been discovered that have changed all that. One of the most startling discoveries has been the presence of feathers
Georgie
on
boy,
a large
how are you
number
doing?
of
Welcome.
species, including Velociraptor.
Yeah.
The idea that dinosaurs like Velociraptor were fully feathered is no longer at all controversial.
No, there's a general
We
consensus
know of
now.
about 60 dinosaur species that are completely covered in feathers, just like modern birds.
It's actually, this came out a couple years ago, this particular video. It's about 70 or 80 now, I think. Different dinosaurs that we know were feathered like this. This includes a lot of dromaeosaurs, like these guys, oviraptorosaurs, troodontids, ornithomimosaurs, alvarezsaurs, like I think this guy here, therizinosaurs, a bunch of different kinds of feathered dinosaurs nowadays. And feathers aren't just good for flying. I think when most people think of feathers, they think of flight. They think of modern birds, most of which are volant. Most modern birds can fly. But feathers didn't originally evolve for flight. Feathers were exapted for flight, co-opted. They turned out to be useful for flying when birds developed flight. But that's not the original, like, purpose of feathers, as much as we can talk about purpose in evolution. That's not what feathers originally evolved for.
Some of the most perfect fossilized feathers have been discovered in China. This is an image of a specimen that was found in 2015.
I think the actual specimen is like this big.
Zhenjuanlong.
Yeah.
And you can probably guess from these huge claws on its feet that it was related to a velociraptor.
Yep, it's a
But
dromaeosaur.
Also, you can see amazingly perfect detail of feathers down its tail and more on its arms, its wings.
Yeah, and let me show you what this critter might have looked like. There you go. Here's a life reconstruction of this critter by Gabriele Guetto. Velociraptor would have looked similar to this too, as would Deinonychus. There's a plastic model that you can get. Oh, and that's actually, yeah, it's bigger than I thought it was. Shoot. But, yeah. Kind of like a big, scary-looking bird, honestly. A lot of these dinosaurs would have looked like that. So there's the fossil specimen, nearly complete. It's just missing a little bit from the end of the tail and maybe a few little bones here and there, but it's nearly all there, including the gastralia, the belly ribs. Even the wishbone would be intact. Yeah. Really cool critter.
For Velociraptor in particular, fossils have even been found with indentations in the bone.
Yep.
Showing
Quill knobs.
exactly where feathers would have been positioned.
So it would have looked very different from that scaly monster that we're familiar with. It would have been coated in lots and lots of feathers and would have looked a lot more like a kind of really terrifying turkey.
Little turkey
Fossil
thing,
evidence
whatever.
for feathers may be clear and incontrovertible, but why would a flightless predator like Velociraptor need feathers in the first place?
Well, they're not just good for
Downy
flying.
coats may soften their image as scaly reptilian killers, but in fact feathers would have made Velociraptors even more deadly, allowing them to attack unsuspecting prey where no other hunter would be able to venture.
Sure.
When we look at modern animals, we see that feathers are useful for so much more than just flying. For an animal like Velociraptor, feathers would have helped to control movement, particularly when the animal was leaping, climbing, or changing direction during a hunt.
Sure.
Feathers can also function as a kind of suit of armor.
It bugs me that they don't talk about stability flapping here.
Blows of prey, as well as from collisions with the environment. And that would have allowed them to succeed even in the most difficult terrains.
Anyhow, what they didn't talk about here was stability flapping. This is one of the scenarios that we have on our wall here. This is a figure from a wonderful 2011 paper. The idea is that having feathered wings, even if you can't fly, those feathered wings would be useful in generating lift as you're standing on top of your prey as it struggles. We see this in a lot of birds of prey nowadays. It's called stability flapping. And so, it's a behavior that we actually observe in modern feathered, winged, predatory animals. And there's a lovely paper about it right here. In the journal PLOS One. This is the predatory ecology of Deinonychus and the origin of flapping in birds. Probably my favorite paper that my old boss, mentor Denver Fowler's ever published. This is such a cool paper. I'll give you a link to it right here, because it is open access. Yeah. So this paper seeks to answer two questions. Why did Velociraptor and Deinonychus and dromaeosaurs like this, why did they have these huge sickle claws on their feet, were they actually for kicking and slashing? When no modern animals with big claws use them for that? Or were they used for something else? And what use would a flightless animal have for wings? Both of those questions kind of dovetail in the answer here. Like modern birds of prey, say golden eagles, that land on a prey item that's too heavy to carry away. They can't fly away with it, so they're essentially flightless while they're subduing it. They can flap their wings to stay upright on top of the prey as they're using their claws to sink into the prey to immobilize it, and then they start eating it while it's still alive. If you have a flightless animal flapping its wings and using its hypertrophied digit 2 claws, its big killer claws like that, to hold the prey item down as it eats it while the thing is struggling. We observe this today in golden eagles and other receptorids like that. It makes good sense for dromaeosaurs too. What a way to go, says Isolated. I know, right? Yeah. It gets into, well... There's a webcomic that some of you might be familiar with. Called XKCD, and they once did a comic about this. Here, I'll just let you read this for a second. I'll read it for you. There's a young woman and a little girl, it looks like. Young woman says, "What are you reading about?" Girl says, "Dinosaurs." Woman goes, "Oh yeah, they've gotten all weird since when I was a kid. They used to be awesome, but now they all have dorky feathers, right?" And the girl says, "Yep." The girl continues, "This says they now think raptors use their wings for stability, flapping to stay on top of their prey while hanging on with their hooked claws and eating it alive." And the woman's just silent. And then she sits down and starts reading too. I love that. Good stuff. That's based on Denver Fowler's research there. It's based on that particular paper, which is really cool. So yeah. Yeah. Even today, Deinonychus is still helping change the way that we think about dinosaurs. Through research like this, Deinonychus acts as a springboard for kind of challenging some of our prior assumptions about these animals, helping us see them with new eyes. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And Claire says, "I'm still trying to find actual video of an actual bird doing it." Look in the paper. There's links in the paper, Claire. Yeah. Steely Dan says, "I definitely hold dinosaurs responsible for my interest in science in general." That's awesome. This gets into I talked about this a couple days ago. That's a project that I want to do, as a scientific paper, like in a journal someday. I'd love to publish on that. Figure out, do a big survey, get a representative sample of different scholars, people in different knowledge fields, and ask them, how many of you first fell in love with learning because of dinosaurs? It'd be nice to have numbers on that, Sometime in the next few years, I'd like to do that. But yeah. And DM Wing, yeah, me too. And you found an animation of that. Oof. Yeah, that's a little gruesome. Thank you, Claire. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, oh boy. It was mercifully brief. Oh Lord, he's laughing. There you go, the raven, yeah. 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 Anyway, that's Deinonychus. By the way, I actually have a revelation that might be new for some people, but the Velociraptor from Jurassic Park is actually Deinonychus. We'll talk about why in a little bit. But that's not Velociraptor you see on the screen in Jurassic Park, or Jurassic World for that matter. It's Deinonychus. They must have scaled them up, says Pyro Kitty's Tavern. A little bit, yeah. But yeah. Andromeda Create says it was in Crichton's papers that he had a Utahraptor in mind. That's not actually true, Andromeda Creates. It can't be true, because Utahraptor hadn't been discovered or described or published on yet. Utahraptor was announced after the film Jurassic Park came out. I think it was 1 or 2 weeks after. So yeah. And a frothy mix. So I worked with Jim this summer. We were talking about that. I wonder if we talked about it on camera. If I have that anywhere in any of the VODs. Here.
It's like you always
Plenty to do.
Yep.
I mean,
So there's Jim right there, us talking about Utahraptor.
these are the good old days.
Yeah.
But if you look, we got a maxilla, both premaxillas. Yeah, both premaxillas from the holotype of Utahraptor. We've got.
And I've ever found human bones. I have not, Cannibal Cooking Club, no. Hi to you too.
The brain case, which is beautiful, we have is from this specimen here.
Yeah.
That big tibia is half a centimeter difference in length from the holotype tibia.
Nice.
So, the big animal in this quarry is the same size, and they're the two biggest ones known. Which is nice to have a real big one in this quarry, and lots of smaller animals.
Hey, we
Anyway.
got a big raid. It looks like.
I'll give you a link to this, but this is at the Utahraptor Mega Block. If you want to learn more about Utahraptor, this is a great place to do that.
So let me introduce everybody real quick. Welcome to Paleontologizing. My name's Danny Anduza. I work on dinosaurs. Here's Jim Kirkland, the state paleontologist for Utah, and we're here in front of the Utahraptor Mega Block. This is.
See, that's a juvenile skeleton of the Utahraptor right there.
Holy cow! So.
Because you see, here's the sacrum. There's the ilia. They're not fused, the vertebra. So not fused. It's a juvenile.
Huh. Very, very cool.
These teeth go probably to a new.
Yeah, so look at those right there.
New raptor.
You can see some of those teeth. So this is not Utahraptor. You think
that one's not? Yeah, the skull and this beautiful maxilla.
Look at that right there.
Another skull on
Look
the
at
other
those
side.
teeth. So that's the upper jaw right there. You see those teeth, everybody?
Yeah, so this is the maxilla. This is the outline of the jaw. And you see those teeth? Oh, boy. Lovely.
Look at that. Exquisite preservation.
Yeah, here's a claw here, but juvenile right there. A slashing claw. Here's another partial premaxilla.
Look at that claw.
Here's the premaxilla. That's the very front of the skull. There's the nasal opening of it.
And Konyo Kradka, thank you for the follow. Welcome.
I remember
Good to have you here.
when this was at Thanksgiving Point, I got to take a look at it. They I was just had my face pressed up against the glass. And somebody, it may have been, I don't think it was Scott, but it could have been. He's like, "Are you a paleontologist?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." He's like, "How could you tell?" It's like, just the way you were looking at this. And he brought me back there, and he was showing me all these little things that they'd just uncovered, and there was a tiny little tooth-bearing bone. I think it was a maxilla. It was like the size of a pencil eraser.
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeous little teeth in it.
Oh, yeah. No, it's nuts. And, this fellow that said we may be turning the, bird origins on its head.
Yeah.
Relative to this new little guy being closer to birds than anybody else we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Yeah. Is there a danger of this altering the timeline of reality? Us watching you? I don't think so, Troy Division, but we'll see. Anywho. Deinonychus, dromaeosaurs, cool animals. And somebody was asking about Dilophosaurus, and yeah, the reason why they downsized the Dilophosaurus in Jurassic Park was because they didn't want audiences to confuse it with the raptors, with the Deinonychus. And then they upscaled the Deinonychus. Here, we've got a Jurassic Park Deinonychus right here on the wall in honor of this. But, here. I'm trying to find this. It was from Stan Winston Studios. There we go. The reason why they upscaled the Deinonychus, the Velociraptor, was because they had to fit a person inside it for some of these different shots. So, yeah. The man inside the suit.
Is a 1/5 scale model to test the proof of concept of putting a man inside of a raptor suit. And the man that you're seeing right now is a model of me, John Rosengrant. I was inside the raptor costume, along with Mark Crash McCreary. He was in another raptor. And what you're looking at right now is what the girls are doing is they're cutting up out of foam and L200 a mock-up or a really elaborate garbage bag test of raptor. And I call it a garbage bag test because that dates back to when we did Aliens for Jim Cameron. We actually constructed a queen alien full size out of garbage bags and foam core similar to this. But to prove that
and there you go, Troy Division. Yep.
And what
we're
doing right here is the same thing. It's just a little bit more elaborate version. And if you frame out this figure from about the knees down, you can kind of see how it was going to be used. And in the film, there's several scenes where it's used. There's two of them walking in the kitchen, and we did exactly what we're talking about, framing it out from the knees down. Here's some tests of it running. So it's very organic and it was very mobile. So
that's why they had to make it bigger than a real Deinonychus.
To make this stuff work. Right now, you're looking at a kind of an elaborate test of a neck mechanism that Stan had come up with. It was very clever. You can see Stan's kind of working on, with me, part of this chicken head bird-like movement. And inside of
it is charming, Salamander, absolutely.
Yeah. The basic head move and tilt and turn.
And it does have a happy aspect to it, Simple Garrick. Yeah. It's funny how that works.
And the idea was that the eyes and the jaw and the arms on it would end up being radio controlled. But here's the beginnings of getting that sort of bird-like head movement. Crash and Stan are joking around with, but what we were doing is trying to work out the range of movement. And Stan's doing other things. Always the joker. But at this point, what you're seeing is Crash and I would train together and get ready for this. But at this point, there's rough skins on this. We're really starting to refine, how it's going to work, get control of the head. And at this point, I think I may have control over the jaw. I'm not, to be honest, I can't remember if that ended up being separate or not, or if we ended up controlling. No, I actually do remember
Look at
now.
that.
We had control over the jaw and the head moves. You can see it's come a long way since the very first tests. Here,
that's lovely.
it's very mobile. Now, these are the legs for the scene which was attached to the whole suit where I step in the doorway and it stands up and it starts hooting for the other raptor to come in the kitchen. Here it is with the paint is
Isn't that cool? Isolated? Yeah.
You know, closer and more finalized, starting to really start to look like something at this point. And later we ended up getting the RC arms working to get a bit of motion there. We got a bit of blink. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this exclusive peek behind the scenes into the making of the raptor suit for Jurassic Park. It's fun for me to look at this after all these years. It was quite a personal challenge, you know, physically very demanding to be in these suits, but very rewarding to be part of this groundbreaking historic film.
And Banshee Fricassee, great question, where are the feathers? Here, let me give you a link to that video there. At the time, it wasn't well established that dinosaurs had feathers. There were some paleontologists who thought that they did. People like Jack Horner, like my old boss, who was the scientific consultant on the Jurassic Park films. He really wanted them to have feathers, and Steven Spielberg told him no. Turns out Jack was right. These guys did have feathers. But that wouldn't really become well established until the late 1990s. We'll be talking about that a bit today, because it actually works with our topic. There's a really fun story with John Ostrom about that. But, yeah, the dinosaur that we're talking about today is called Deinonychus. It was on this very day, back in 1964, that John Ostrom found some of the first remains of Deinonychus. Arguably not the very first remains, but for the sake of simplicity, we'll say he discovered Deinonychus on that day. Here, take a look at this clip here.
This is Yale University's Peabody Museum, where John Ostrom is curator.
This is from 1992, this documentary.
I'd like to introduce you to the largest painting in the world. It portrays time over a span of about 350 million years, from the Devonian period back in the Paleozoic, all the way up to the end of the dinosaur era, the end of the Mesozoic. It's called the Age of Reptiles.
Here is the old picture of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Pea-brained giants lumbering through lush tropical foliage.
This used to be the way that we thought about dinosaurs.
Leaves and grass. For years, the stereotype was magnificently represented by this mural.
Since the 40s, when it was painted, a number of discoveries have been made, and new ideas have been thrown into the debate. And perhaps one of the most important discoveries was made by me.
I love how happy he is about that. How proud he is. I mean, John Ostrom did help change the way we think about dinosaurs. And it was Deinonychus that kind of spurred him on to do that.
Discoveries have been made, and new ideas have been thrown into the debate. And perhaps one of the most important discoveries was made by me.
It was 1964. John Ostrom recalls that he had been digging for months in Low County, Montana, and not finding very much.
Very isolated, yeah.
Time had run out. His crew had packed up their equipment and were heading for their cars.
You know, we've been looking for 5 years before we found anything as exciting as this.
Close to where the cars were parked, Ostrom noticed something in the rock. Since his tools were already stowed away, he began to scrape the dirt with his fingernails. This is what he saw first.
Startling. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. Notice
it is always the last day.
extraordinarily large claws.
How it goes.
Sharp, curved, clearly the hands of a predaceous animal. Associated, found very close to this, was this object, obviously a claw, which I thought belong to the hand because it looks very much like the claws on those fingers. But there was no place for it to fit.
Yep, it's already got all the claws
And
on
I
there.
puzzled over that for some time, but we found the answer. Turns out that that claw didn't belong to the hand at all. In fact, it belonged to the foot. But then something more came to light in our quarry, and I'll show you just a part of it. Bits and pieces of the tail, encased in bundles of ossified tendons all along each right side, left side, underneath. This made the tail completely stiff, like what I picture as a balancing pole. It kept the animal, helped the animal keep its balance while it was using those sickles on its feet for killing whatever it was hungry for.
Ostrom named the animal Deinonychus, terrible claw, a killing machine that came into being more than 100 million years ago and used both hands and feet to snatch and rend its prey, keeping its balance by the remarkable adaptation in its tail. Nothing like the galumphing brutes in the Yale Muro, but a speedy acrobat, a racer.
We might watch more of this clip later, but wonderful stop-motion animation by Phil Tippett. Anyway, and then the documentary continues. Here is a clip, or here's a link, rather. And you remember that Andromeda Creates? Yeah. And do I think Spielberg saw that documentary? I think so. It's funny, there are a few different bits and pieces from different documentaries. That seem to have directly influenced Jurassic Park in like immediate ways. In this Christopher Reeve documentary.
If the Brontosaurus weighed 33 tons and was 70 feet long.
Oh, here we go.
If the
It almost seems like this might have been the inspiration for Sam Neill's costume in Jurassic Park, the Alan Grant paleontologist character. This is before Jurassic Park came out, obviously. Yeah. What year did this?
Tons and was 70 feet long. Then the Altosaurus may have weighed 150 tons and been over 100 feet long, 5 times bigger, a gigantic creature.
I want to say this is from the late 80s. Yeah. We've got a rearing Brachiosaurus.
For 130 million years.
In this clip here.
Managed to survive for so long.
In fact, all dinosaurs would fit in the same size range as our known.
So, this one right there. And then check out this other parallel that I found.
Today, chance discoveries are being helped by science. Dinosaur hunters use technology to detect what the eye cannot see. That's the theory, anyway.
I'd love to put together a YouTube video with some of these things.
Dinosaurs is still, shall we say, a hit and miss affair.
Yeah, this thing doesn't work.
Got a misfire, wait a minute. Roland, you know it's all your fault that we got involved in all this confusion.
You led me on by saying paleontology was in the Dark Ages and we needed to do some real science.
Well, that we were in the Dark Ages then, and I think we still are.
Physicists.
I'm ready, arm it.
Sufferable.
Seriously, this all began when I gave us.
Anywho, yeah. There's a few more things like that too. But it's interesting in that, like, a lot of the imagery from Jurassic Park seems to have been inspired more or less directly from stuff like this. Yeah. It's interesting to think about. And there you go, dealing, yeah. And Jurassic Park took references right from the source. In a lot of ways, yeah, for sure. I'm not chiding them for that. You know, it's cool that it was based on more or less real stuff. There was I think, a laudable effort to actually make things as authentic as they could in a lot of ways. And Trencase says, doesn't denim originate from gold prospectors? It does indeed. Blue jeans, which are now one of the world's most famous pieces of clothing, one of the world's most beloved garments, originated right here in the San Francisco Bay Area during the gold rush. Supposedly in San Francisco, actually. Levi Strauss & Company, I think, is still headquartered in San Francisco. And, yeah, it was during the gold rush that denim became a thing. Yeah. We're not going to go into detail about that, because we got to talk about Deinonychus, but you can look it up, everybody. Anybody who's curious. Yeah, look it up. In fact, actually, I'm kind of tempted to do that right now. And Majot,
can make a wonderful difference.
Thank you for the 1,000 bits.
Appreciation and understanding of fossil science here on Twitch.
Thank you, Majot. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. 1,000 bits. Thanks for supporting science outreach here on Twitch. And there's the lights flashing. A little bit delayed from that bits gift, but thank you, Majot. I appreciate that. Addition of copper pocket rivets added by Jacob Davis in 1781, patented by Davis and Levi Strauss, May 1873. History. Rivets. Levi Strauss, as a young man in 1851, went from Germany to New York to join his older brothers who ran a goods store. In 1853, he moved to San Francisco to open his own dry goods business. Anywho. Blue jeans. California original. Just like the cheeseburger, or the atomic bomb, or, I don't know. Lots of other nefarious inventions. But yeah. And Majot says, did you pick up your wish list gifts? Majot, were those from you? Holy cow. I scoured those boxes to look for any indication of who they were from. But yes, Majot, yes indeed. Can I show off what you sent? There were 3 different items. Some much-needed spray paint for painting some of my 3D prints. This is a lovely kind of hammered bronze. Hammered dark bronze, in fact. Which will be really, really lovely for some of these things. More 3D printer filaments, which I'm excited to use once some parts arrive. My 3D printer's on the fritz right now. I've got to replace the thermistor sensor. But, beige-colored 3D printer filaments. A whole spool of it. This is going to be lovely. Thank you very, very much. Holy cow. And, the last item, most impressive, I would say, is this. It is a waterproof gear case that I had on the wish list for a long time. Thank you, Majot. Holy cow. This is going to be really, really nice for transporting fossils, various pieces of sensitive equipment in the field, all kinds of stuff. It is quite the piece of gear here. It really is. Check that out. Very nice. I've been wanting one of these for years, and now we've got it. I'm going to be doing some collections work and maybe transporting some fossils back and forth in the coming year. And I can use this for that, as long as I don't have to fly. Or if I do have to fly, I guess I could use this as my carry-on. But, yeah. Spectacular. I really appreciate that, Majot. Very generous of you. Thank you for helping support this channel and support me as a researcher in a direct, material way. I appreciate that very sincerely, so thank you very, very much. Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. And it is a serious piece of equipment. Absolutely, Gregory. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm gonna put this on my lap as we talk. But yeah. And Tren K, you should add Adam Savage on Twitter, your neighbor. Does he still live in the Bay Area? I've got some projects that I'm working on that I feel like I should finish before I ever even think about contacting Adam Savage from Mythbusters. Because some of the stuff I think he might be impressed by. I think he might think it's pretty cool. And I also have some other projects that, yeah, I think he might be interested in. So one of these days, maybe I'll try and reach out to him. I don't know. It'd be neat. Yeah. And Troy Division, I have no idea what you're talking about. No. Sorry. Monkeys on the spaceship? Beats me. Yeah. And this case will come in handy when Danny becomes a contract killer. I don't plan on killing any contracts anytime soon, Captain Pugwash. I don't know what you're talking about. Nunetti says, now I want an Adam Savage and Paleontologizing collab. Hey, that'd be cool. I remember watching a video with Adam Savage talking about reconstructing a dodo skeleton, and that kind of captured my imagination. I thought that was really neat. He seems like the kind of person I'd get along well with. I feel like we'd have some cool stuff to talk about. I know he's interested in dinosaurs to a certain extent, so I think he'd be a good person to know. And maybe he'd think the same thing about me. I don't know. I don't want to be presumptuous. But yeah. Yeah. And Nobarum says, lurking here, but show me the claw. I don't have a Deinonychus claw on, in my office, but I have a Utahraptor claw. And I've got claws of various other dinosaurs, but those are not pedal unguals, they're manual unguals, so they're not foot claws, they're hand claws. I've got a skull of Deinonychus that I can show you. This is an old reconstruction. Nowadays we recognize it shouldn't be as triangular in aspect as it is here, but this is like your classic Deinonychus skull that you see in still a lot of museums nowadays. You see it in illustrations and books and documentaries and stuff like that. The classic Deinonychus skull that I 3D printed a long time ago. It's one of the first things I ever 3D printed was that skull. Yeah. Anywho. Yeah. Let's get back to Deinonychus here. Some of you might remember this from 1985. Phil Tippett is a special effects wizard who also lives here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I actually met him once. Phil Tippett here. I met him once in Berkeley, California. Just by chance. I happened to be at the hardware store in Berkeley, California. There's an Ace Hardware that had this... In the basement, they had this huge section of plastic models. And I always used to go down there every chance I got. It's a really cool place. And apparently Phil Tippett used to hang out there too, because I ran into him. And we talked about dinosaurs for a little while one time. It was pretty neat. But,
it's like really big
check this out. And Dr. Irrefutable, I did get a chance to pick up the package. I was waiting for you, yeah. We'll look at that in a minute.
Return of the Jedi. And it was fine. It was like very calming. And so I decided to go back to work. When I walked into like the blue screen stage, and it was just like, I took like way too much. I'm Phil Tippett. I live in Berkeley, California.
Yep.
And I started off as a stop motion animator, and I got bumped upstairs to be a visual effects supervisor and director, and I got my start on the original Star Wars doing the masks for the cantina scene, which we played. And that just led to the relationship with George.
Has anybody here seen that obscure film called Star Wars?
Imperial Snowwalkers, and then I designed Jabba the Hutt and the Rancor Pit Monster, then went on to work on Starship Troopers, RoboCop, and Jurassic Park.
Yep. Anyway, Phil Tippett. There's his Deinonychus there. Anyway, I'll give you a link so you can look at that. But let's look at his Deinonychus piece from 1985. Deinonychus used to be one of the very, very, very most famous dinosaurs until Jurassic Park came out, when Deinonychus was relabeled Velociraptor for those films. What's really funny is that Deinonychus is still super famous, but most people call it Velociraptor now. Velociraptor is a different dinosaur. We'll get into why it was called Velociraptor in Jurassic Park in a little bit. First, let's take a look at this. What a great shot. Holy cow. Oof. Yeah, it does get a little grisly here, but I don't know. Sensitive viewers, you can look away. Yowza. So it's, that's some kind of ornithomimid. I think it's supposed to be Struthiomimus or Ornithomimus. Yeah. Yeah. Deinonychus. cool critter. Now you might be wondering, why would they call it Velociraptor in Jurassic Park? The thing you gotta understand first of all is that, A, it's not Velociraptor. Velociraptor is a smaller dinosaur. So Velociraptor, there we go. It's about that big. About the size of a large dog, maybe? Or a medium to large dog. Its skull is sized thusly. It's not a huge creature. And it hails from Mongolia in the late Cretaceous period. Hence Velociraptor mongoliensis. It means the swift thief from Mongolia, Mongoliensis. In the book Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton talks about Velociraptor. That's one of the dinosaurs featured in the novel. But he doesn't call it Velociraptor mongoliensis. He calls it Velociraptor anteropus. If you have a copy of Jurassic Park, you can look through it and see. You know, I have one right here. Let me see if I can find that real quick for you. There we go. I don't remember exactly where it was. Oh, here we go. Here we go. What do you know about Velociraptor? Grant asked Tim. He was just making conversation. It's a small carnivore that hunted in packs like Deinonychus, Tim said. That's right, Grant said, although Deinonychus is now considered one of the velociraptors. And the evidence for pack hunting is all circumstantial. Anyway. Deinonychus is now considered one of the velociraptors. That's not the case. Velociraptor and Deinonychus are different dinosaurs. They're members of the same family. So they are both dromaeosaurs. Both members of this family. Here we go. There's Velociraptor right here and Deinonychus over here. Velociraptor and Deinonychus. But here's the thing. When Michael Crichton was writing Jurassic Park, he was working hard to try and include some of the latest science. He wanted it to be as paleontologically authentic as he could get it to be. And so in doing that, in doing his like background reading for the book, he consulted a new popular science book by Greg Paul from 1988, Predatory Dinosaurs of the World. Let me find that here on my shelf. Here we go. There we are. And in this book, Greg Paul, who is a paleontologist and a paleo artist, Greg Paul made some kind of interesting claims here.
Remarkable animal
Lonely CPU Gaming.
Existed, and certainly
Thank you for the 3 months of support. Appreciate that.
Is a dinosaur.
Thank you for the prime there, Lonely CPU. Appreciate you. There. I had to just dog-ear the page at this point because we look at this so often. Let's look it up in the index, Velociraptor. But Greg Paul sinks Deinonychus into Velociraptor in this book. So he says that Deinonychus should be considered just a species of velociraptor. So instead of Deinonychus anteropus, it should be Velociraptor anteropus. Page 369. There we go. There we go. There's a Deinonychus leaping onto the side of a Tenontosaurus, but he calls it Velociraptor anteropus. There we go. Leaping against the herd of Tenontosaurus. Tenontosaurus is from the early Cretaceous of Montana. And this is Deinonychus leaping onto it, but Greg Paul calls it Velociraptor in this book. And see right there, Velociraptor anteropus, Ostrom, 1969. Synonym, Deinonychus anteropus. So Greg Paul has done a number of these things over the years in various books. He's done a lot of this in his current, Princeton Field Guide to Dinosaurs. A lot of, kind of creative, interesting, controversial, nomenclatural acts. But that's why Deinonychus gets called Velociraptor in Jurassic Park. It's because of this book. It's because Greg Paul, at the time, he's like, yeah, Deinonychus, we're going to say it's part of genus Velociraptor. That's why it gets called Velociraptor in the book, and thus in the movie, too. And I think Michael Crichton and Steven Spielberg were super happy about this idea. They're like, yeah, we'll call it Velociraptor. It's a much cooler sounding name. I think Deinonychus is also a really cool name. But, it's clear that the public really likes Velociraptor more, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Anywho. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. And Troy Division says, were there any other dinosaurs that laid their eggs in other dinosaurs' nests because they were too lazy to raise them? I don't know if it's a laziness thing. Cuckoo birds do that today, and they're dinosaurs. So yeah. I don't think it's a laziness thing. It's it's a survival strategy. It's called brood parasitism, or nest parasitism. Those animals are called brood parasites, or nest parasites. I don't think we have any direct evidence of dinosaurs doing that. No, there's one potential. There's one I can think of that could be interpreted as such. I don't know if I have that book here, but let me see if I can find it. I don't know if I can find that illustration. But there was a little baby dromaeosaur skull found in a nest of Oviraptorosaurs. And so you can interpret that in a few different ways. It could be that was a brood parasite. It could be the dromaeosaur went and laid an egg in an Oviraptorosaur's nest. And then maybe that little baby dromaeosaur is supposed to eat the baby Oviraptorosaurs. More likely it's the other way around. That Oviraptorosaur parent caught a baby dromaeosaur and brought it in as food to its hatchlings. That's the explanation that's favored more often, but it's hard to say, you know? Anyway, yeah. And DM-Wing makes a good point. If Deinonychus had been in Jurassic Park, the public would love Deinonychus. Maybe. Deinonychus is, prior to Jurassic Park, Deinonychus was a much more famous dinosaur than Velociraptor. I'll show you an example of this. This book, one of my favorite dinosaur encyclopedias. This was hugely influential on me as a kid. Still, I think, the greatest dinosaur encyclopedia ever published. Dave Norman's Illustrated Encyclopedia of Dinosaurs. Back to our theropods here. Tyrannosaurs. Oh, it's further back than this. There we go. Dromaeosaurids. So, this is the family that Velociraptor and Deinonychus belong to, and Deinonychus is front and center here. Right there in the foreground. And then there's Dromaeosaurus right next to it. This is before we realized these critters had feathers, obviously. And then, off in the background, almost as an afterthought, is Velociraptor. This used to be one of the most prominent illustrations of Velociraptor. You would see this copied all over the place. I had a pencil when I was a kid, like a souvenir pencil, that had this illustration on it. Just cribbed directly from this. You know, basically traced from that illustration there. But yeah. Yeah, Velociraptor was a fairly obscure dinosaur, not well known to the general public prior to Jurassic Park. And it still is fairly obscure in the sense that when most people in the general public talk about Velociraptor, they're actually talking about Deinonychus without realizing it. Here, let's do a Google image search for Velociraptor. And let's see what we get. There's a few that actually are Velociraptor, like this one. But there you've got a Jurassic World Deinonychus, aka Velociraptor. Another one right there. Another one right there. This one's from Jurassic Park 3, also Deinonychus. This one here, also Deinonychus. Deinonychus again, Deinonychus again, Deinonychus again, and again. And again, even this one, with feathers, is based on Deinonychus. This is from the original Jurassic Park. It's from Jurassic Park 3. Yeah, but, yeah, so when most people think of Velociraptor, they're not actually thinking of Velociraptor. Here. You've got a Jurassic Park Velociraptor up there, and then you've got Velociraptor down here. Does that make sense? Yeah. And there is a similar thing with Brachiosaurus and Giraffatitan, yeah. Although that is Brachiosaurus actually getting renamed, and that's also because of Greg Paul. Yeah, shoot. But yeah. Yeah. And Claire Burst says, Danny, how did Greg Paul get away with publishing this, as though everyone agreed on it? He just didn't bother to ask. It's a book. Like, it's not peer-reviewed. It's just his own work, you know? It's not in a peer-reviewed scientific journal. Yeah. Anyhow. Yeah. But yeah, Giraffatitan and Brachiosaurus. Here. Giraffatitan is our kind of newer name for the big brachiosaur from Tendaguru, Tanzania, East Africa. This is the dinosaur that the Jurassic Park Brachiosaurus is based on. Actual Brachiosaurus is from Colorado and from other parts of the western U.S. And it looks a little bit different. So the Brachiosaurus from Jurassic Park also isn't actually Brachiosaurus. It's actually Giraffatitan. The one from Africa used to be called Brachiosaurus. We called it Brachiosaurus bronchi. That's the genus and species. Brachiosaurus is the genus, bronchi is the species. And then Greg Paul published, was it a book or was it... I think it was a book. Well, maybe it was a scientific paper. I forget precisely with Giraffatitan. But he renamed it. He's like, this is too different from Brachiosaurus. this species shouldn't be in the same genus. I'm going to give it a new genus name. Instead of Brachiosaurus bronchi, I'm going to call it Giraffatitan bronchi. And thus, it's now called Giraffatitan. It's the big brachiosaur skeleton that you see in Berlin and the Museum of Natural History there. The tallest mounted dinosaur skeleton in the world. Actual fossil bone skeleton. This is the tallest one in the world. It's no longer called Brachiosaurus, it's called Giraffatitan, because Greg Paul determined, we're going to say this is a different genus. And rather than the Velociraptor Deinonychus thing, where nobody went along with that, other dinosaur paleontologists went along with this and called it Giraffatitan. We don't have like an official governing body that makes decisions about whether or not this dinosaur is the same as that dinosaur or anything like that. There's no like official vote that's held within paleontology. The determining factor is just usage. Do other paleontologists find that name useful? And if they do, they will use it in their own work, and it'll get spread throughout the literature that way. It's a very organic kind of a thing. It's more of a bottom-up decision and approach than like a top-down one. Does that make sense? Yeah. But yeah. And the one in Jurassic Park 3 looked quite different to the ones in Jurassic Park in the World 2. Interesting, Crimson Carnothoris. I wasn't aware of that. I thought they looked pretty similar. Just different coloration. Yeah. And are there any compendiums of dinosaur names of any kind? These things don't tend to... Well, they change so frequently. We find new dinosaurs all the time. The best list of dinosaur names that I could turn you on to is here. On Wikipedia. This is the best one because it's consistently and regularly updated. So there are dinosaur names that are... There's at least one that's brand new as of, like, yesterday, basically. But yeah, this includes a bunch of names that are no longer valid, things that turned out not to actually be dinosaurs, different names that were given to dinosaurs that turned out to be the same critter. So there's a lot. Yeah, we're still in the A's. There's the B's. Yeah. And the D's, the E's, the F's and the G's. Yeah, it just keeps going. So there's about, I think something like 2,000 different names for dinosaurs so far. And probably fewer than half of those are valid. There we go. But here is your link right there. Check it out. Yeah. That first one is kind of funny. Found to be a piece of petrified wood. Yeah. A lot of these names were... Many of them are from way early on in the history of dinosaur paleontology, before we really knew anything about dinosaurs, and when the study of fossils was still fairly new. So yeah, this one here, Echinosaurus, is a genus of fossilized wood. Oh, Nicolia is a genus of fossilized wood. At one time, specimens were misidentified as jaw fragments of ornithopod dinosaur and named Echinosaurus. So yeah, it happens. This was named back in 1887. Holy cow. I bet most of the people here in chat weren't even born back then. Anywho. And Goldman Lax says, compared to 15 million animals today, not much. Yeah, but consider that we've only been naming dinosaurs for the past 200 years. And these things are rarely fossilized to start with, let alone discovered, dug up by a paleontologist, studied, prepared, photographed, published on, named. So yeah, we are really just kind of scratching the surface when it comes to dinosaur discoveries, though. On average, a new dinosaur is named, published in the scientific literature. A new dinosaur genus or species is published once every 9 days. There have been 35 different dinosaur names published, new dinosaur names published, just so far this year. I was looking into this yesterday. We are 35 weeks into 2024. We're currently in the 35th week of 2024, and there have been 35 dinosaurs named so far this year. So it's been 1 dinosaur per week so far. We're doing better than average. That average, once every 9 days, that's over the past decade, averaged out. But in 2024, the pace has been even more rapid than that. 1 every 7 days. It's pretty cool. Yeah. DM Wing says 100 dinosaurs have been named since Danny started this explanation. I thought you were going to say since I started streaming, because it's been more than that. I started streaming in May of 2020. And in that time, in the latter half of 2020, I think there were about 25 dinosaurs named. There was something like 30 or 40 in the 2 years after that. So, yeah, shoot. 20 plus, we'll say 30 plus 30. So we're already up to 80. That's 2020, 2021, 2022. I think there were 40 last year, thereabouts. So we're up to 120. 155 since I've started streaming. It's a lot of dinosaurs to keep track of, you know? So yeah. Anyway. And Hornsfan says, why are the ancestors of dinosaurs harder to study than dinosaurs themselves? Are they? I don't know. If we're talking about the ancestors of dinosaurs during the Triassic period, you know, since the Permian extinction until the evolution of the first dinosaurs, we just don't have a lot of rocks there. So we don't have a lot of fossils. And also, it's not a very long span of time. Dinosaurs were around for about 170, 180 million years, give or take. Here, I'll show you. We're a time chart here. So, the Mesozoic is often called the Age of the Dinosaurs. During the Cretaceous period, dinosaurs ruled the Earth. Likewise, the Jurassic, and they first evolved in the Triassic. Probably around here, the Ladinian, or maybe even earlier. But we've got our first dinosaur fossil so far from the Carnian stage of the Triassic, about 230 million years ago, give or take. And so there's not a lot of time for to study the ancestors of the dinosaurs compared with all of this time that dinosaurs were thriving and doing their thing and ruling the Earth. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then here, the Permian Triassic extinction event, this is kind of what paved the way for the dinosaurs. There were a group of proto-mammals, basically. Synapsids that ruled the Earth prior to this during the Permian. And then they and the sauropsids, reptiles, were kind of vying for control in the early Triassic. But reptiles are really kind of taken over. And then the dinosaurs come to the fore and just rule the Earth until the end of the Cretaceous. Some people would say that dinosaurs still rule the Earth today, at least in the sense that there are twice as many bird species as there are mammals, and birds are dinosaurs. There are how many species of birds around today? 9,000! Yeah, and there's over 4,000 species of mammals. So, you could make an argument that we're still in the age of dinosaurs. but it's very much a well, actually kind of argument. You'd have to do it based on species count rather than based on who were like the dominant terrestrial vertebrates, you know? And Arzhel says, can we estimate the number of species that have not yet been discovered? Yes, there have been a few different papers that have tried to estimate the number of dinosaur species that would have existed throughout the Mesozoic, from the Triassic up through the Cretaceous, and you get various estimates. Most of them are around 10,000 species, like that's the number that I hear most frequently. But there's so many variables there. This is actually a project that I'm working on, albeit kind of slowly. But this is something I hope to publish on in the next few years, is coming up with a framework to think about that question in an intelligent way. And by tweaking some of the variables, you can come up with different answers. You know, just trying to kind of outline the problem and say, this is how we might be able to come up with estimates. The numbers themselves are not as important as the methodology, I would say. That's kind of my thinking when it comes to that. But yeah. Murph says, mammals have them on percent body mass? I don't know about that, Murph. Because I think birds are far more numerous than mammals in just about any given environment. Even when you consider, like, blue whales.
Strange beasts were protected by massive plates of bony armor.
Mama Bonbon, thank you for the 37 months of support. I appreciate you. Thanks for keeping me here online for that long. Appreciate you. Yeah. Anywho. Yeah. And Sabina Bean says, aside from the one you showed a moment ago, are there any easy-to-read dinosaur encyclopedias you'd recommend? Yes. Let me show you another one. This one is from the... basically, like, the earliest 1980s. So while it was really comprehensive and excellent for its time, it's very much out of date. There's still a lot of excellent stuff in here, but the science has moved on so much. Like, there are entire groups of dinosaurs that aren't even mentioned in this. You know, ones that were basically not known about yet. Critters like therizinosaurs don't even appear in here, really. Yeah. Let me show you one that's more up-to-date and a little bit more all ages appropriate, too. Here. That's this one there. This is what I would recommend. Right here. So this is Tom Holtz's Dinosaurs Encyclopedia. It can be a little hard to find nowadays because it's very much in demand. But it's called Dinosaurs, the most complete, up-to-date encyclopedia for dinosaur lovers of all ages. Yeah, and Holtz, Holtz, that's the name you should know for this. Yeah. So Tom Holtz is a dinosaur paleontologist who specializes in tyrannosaurs. But this is a lovely encyclopedia that really kind of takes you through Dinosauria. And even though this is from 2006, so it's approaching 20 years old at this point, it's still really kind of the best dinosaur encyclopedia of its kind, I would say. And the illustrations are stellar. This is really good stuff. So I would highly recommend it. Yeah. Yeah. Anyhow. Fantastic artwork indeed. Yeah, by Louis Ray. Excellent stuff. Let me see if I can find this. Do we have it on Thrift Books? I can give you a link. Might be able to get it for cheap. Yeah, shoot. There we go. Dinosaurs, the most complete, up-to-date encyclopedia for dinosaur lovers of all ages. You can get it new for $28, or acceptable condition for $8.09. Oh, or very good for $20.09. Holy cow. Anyway, here's a link. Yeah. And Valiant Cheese, hey, thanks for being here. You take care. You have a lovely time as well. And Kennedy says, how much is known about how long Deinonychus and Velociraptor lived and how long it took to reach adulthood? We don't know a great deal about that. Or at least, I don't know that off the top of my head. I don't know if they've ever had proper histological study. But if they're like some other theropod dinosaurs like this, they'd probably take a couple years to reach adulthood and then a few more to actually reach like skeletal maturity. They would reach sexual maturity before they actually reach their full adult size or reach skeletal maturity, if that makes sense. Most dinosaurs seem to have been like that. They can reproduce before they're actually full grown, before their skeletons are done growing, you know, before their bones are finished getting larger, before they start laying down that external fundamental signature in their bones. Yeah. But yeah, 2-page illustration versus organisms in a typical ecosystem of the time. Interesting, Gay Hibiscus, yeah. I wonder which one that would have been. That almost sounds like the Dorling Kindersley Encyclopedia of Ancient Life. Yeah. And Murph says pterosaurs have 150 or so described species. Is that preservation bias? Probably, Murph, yeah. Pterosaurs are less likely to get fossilized, just by virtue of having hollow bones. Really delicate hollow bones. Yeah. Pterosaurs were almost certainly more diverse than that. It's just, they're not often preserved. Yeah. Anyway. They're made of paper towel rolls. There you go, Claire, yeah. And how young Velociraptor Deinonychus have been found? So for Velociraptor, I'm not sure. There were rumors of Velociraptor hatchlings from Mongolia. But these were supposed to be like commercial specimens, like somebody dug them up, stole them from that country basically, smuggled them out of Mongolia, and they were being sold on the black market. And whether it was actually Velociraptor or a close relative like Sagan or Linharaptor or something, I don't think we really know. And those might be lost forever if they were on the black market, you know? If they existed in the first place. These were just rumors that I heard. As for Deinonychus, I think we actually have Deinonychus eggs at this point. So we've got them as young as they get. Yeah. Has this been published on yet? I remember seeing it in National Geographic. Yeah. I might have that issue here, actually. Let's see if I can find that. Put this back. Here we are. It's on the cover. Well. We looked at this right when it came out a few years ago. That would have been 2020. The November 2020 issue. Excuse me, October 2020 issue of National Geographic. Reimagining dinosaurs from rainbow feathers to river monsters. Prehistoric icons get a modern reboot. And again, this is October 2020, right there. And there's Deinonychus right there on the cover with some blue eggs. There we go. Little hatchling Deinonychus. And there's an adult. The eggs are blue. A newly hatched Deinonychus chick is surrounded by colorful blue eggs in the above-ground nest. It's watched over by an attendant father. Deinonychus appears to have had bluish eggs like those of some modern birds, suggesting it used open-air nests. Egg color and patterning may provide camouflage in an open environment. Nests in the open would indicate that Deinonychus brooded its offspring. And I think we actually have... And there we go, Deinonychus egg right there. I don't know if this has been published in the scientific literature yet. I kind of forget. It might have been. Yeah. Yeah, Deinonychus anteropus right there. I don't think they would put this in National Geographic unless it was already in a peer-reviewed journal. So let me see if I can find that. So yeah, to answer your question, the youngest Deinonychus we have so far is still in the egg. There we go. Large number of previously unnoticed fossilized eggshells were discovered in the rock matrix that had surrounded the original Deinonychus specimen. Holy cow. Really? The original one found in 1964, on this day in 1964, had eggshell around it, and the crew didn't realize? In a subsequent, more detailed report on the eggshells, Grellet Tinner and Makavicki concluded the egg almost certainly belonged to Deinonychus, representing the first dromaeosaurid egg to be identified. Moreover, the external surface of one eggshell was found to have close contact with the gastralia, suggesting the Deinonychus might have brooded its eggs. So actually sat on its nest like a bird. We have this for a lot of other dinosaurs, so it would make perfect sense for Deinonychus too. This implied that Deinonychus used body heat transfer as a mechanism for egg incubation and indicates endothermy similar to modern birds, so warm-bloodedness. Further study by Greg Erickson and colleagues found that this individual was 13 or 14 years old at death. Well, well, well. I didn't realize we actually had an age estimate based on histology for Deinonychus. That's excellent. Its growth had plateaued. Unlike other theropods in their study of specimens found associated with eggs or nests, it had finished growing at the time of its death. Nice. So there you go. Yeah. 13 or 14 years old at death. And skeletally mature. So that implies that we've got an EFS there. An external fundamental signature. Good stuff. Here's that paper right here. There we go. Here's a link. Growth patterns in brooding dinosaurs reveals the timing of sexual maturity in non-avian dinosaurs and the genesis of the avian condition. Very nice. Oh, how do I not know about this paper? Shoot. That's my undergrad advisor right there, Dave Verricchio. Yeah. Pretty cool. Anyway, there's an Oviraptorosaur brooding its nest. As you see in the fossil right there. There's, like a cross-section of bone right there, showing the growth rings. And that growth is, starting to slow down toward the outside. Implying the animal is reaching maturity. Yeah. Anyway, good stuff. Very cool. Yeah. Pretty neat. It's funny, we know more about Deinonychus than I realized. But yeah, and X4230 says colorful dinosaurs. What, lol? Great camouflage theory? I mean, we know for a fact that some dinosaurs were brightly colored. Because we've got fossilized melanosomes, color cells, that actually show the color pattern. So if you've got preserved skin or feathers in a fossil like this, like you see that fringe of feathers running down the back of the Sinosauropteryx, you can look at those and actually use them to determine what color the animal was while it was alive. Well, and I guess while it was dead, being buried, but you get what I mean. So for a dinosaur like Sinosauropteryx, we know that it had orange and white stripes running down its tail. Pretty cool to think about. Yeah. No, Barham says, how can that color be preserved? I'll show you. It's through the melanosome. So, like, different color cells have got different shapes.
The chicken-sized...
There we go. There we go.
They look like special structures that help give animals color, melanosomes. If you've heard of these before, it's probably because you have them. Lots of animals do. Melanosomes are responsible for all of your body's coloration, from your skin to your eyes to your hair. Each melanosome contains some type of melanin, which is a natural pigment. And based on their density and distribution, they can create different colors. Now I know what you're wondering. What in the name of Charles R. Knight does a Jurassic squid have to do with dinosaurs? Well, you know what else has melanosomes? Feathers. Experts can look at the feather of a living bird, like a cardinal or a crow, and see what kind of melanosomes make that feather's color. For example, long, skinny melanosomes make black and gray, like the black you find around a cardinal's eyes.
So it's the shape of the melanosomes that today correspond with certain colors. So in a fossil that it's not colorful anymore, you can't just look at it and say, oh, I can see the color. But you can see the shapes of the melanosomes in there, and different melanosome shapes correspond to different pigments.
But if melanosomes are short and round, they make reddish colors, like what you would see on red-tailed hawks. This information can be used as a template for studying ancient animals. So living dinosaurs are basically the color key to extinct dinosaurs. In 2010, this idea was put to the test in a place that's famous for its abundant fossils of feathered dinosaurs, China. There, a team of Chinese and British scientists studied what might be one of the most adorable dinosaurs ever, the chicken-sized Sinosauropteryx. Sinosauropteryx was the first non-avian dinosaur to be discovered with structures of feather-like fluff back in 1996. And after studying the melanosomes found in that fuzz, researchers determined that Sinosauropteryx was ginger. Its downy coat was apparently reddish-brown over most of its body, but its tail was a little different, alternating between light and dark bands, giving it some extra flair. Vinther and his colleagues used this same technique to reconstruct the plumage of another feathery pigeon-sized dinosaur called Anchiornis. And it turns out that this dinosaur looked kind of like punk rock magpie, mostly black and white on its wings and legs with a splash of red on its top.
And Anchiornis is really cool in particular because it is so close to the origin of birds. It's a dinosaur that is so bird-like that it might actually be a bird. We're still trying to figure this out, but there are some paleontologists who consider Anchiornis the earliest bird we have so far. The thing is, since we know that birds evolved from dinosaurs, and we're starting to find some of these kind of like transitions in between, the line is really, really fuzzy between what is just a very bird-like dinosaur and a true bird. And Anchiornis is like right there on that line. And so there's a lot of arguments. Is it a true bird or is it just an extremely bird-like dinosaur? Different researchers disagree on this. But the point is it's really fuzzy. There's no hard dividing line between birds and dinosaurs. Birds are a kind of dinosaur, obviously, but where do birds start? And we're still trying to figure that out.
After this, the colors of more dinosaurs were soon revealed. The four-winged Microraptor, it had dark iridescent plumage, kind of like a raven, and one specimen of the little horned dinosaur Psittacosaurus was even found to have melanosomes in its skin, revealing that the dino was dark on top and light underneath. Pretty cool, right? As long as the dinosaur is preserved with feathers or some other structure that keeps melanosomes intact, scientists can figure out their basic colors. Now, this is all awesome and exciting.
It's pretty neat. Yeah, here's a link right here if you'd like to watch the rest of that. But yeah. We don't have fossil feathers for Deinonychus yet. Maybe someday we will. But right now, all of the places where Deinonychus has been found are not really the kinds of places where you get that kind of preservation. So these are not localities that are kicking out fossil feathers anywhere. You know, if you found a fossil bird there, it's not like the feathers are going to be preserved on the bird either. This place called Rainbow Butte in Montana is where Deinonychus was found. There it is there. Yeah. Oh, this is Jack Horner, my old boss, on Twitter. It says, top photo, Rainbow Butte in 1965, where John Ostrom discovered Deinonychus in 1964. On this very day in 1964. If Don Glut is to be believed about that. It was on August 28th, according to that source. The quarry was secured prior to completion on account of overburden. Was secured prior to completion on account of overburden. I don't know what he means by that. I had a crew led by Des Maxwell reopen the site 30 years later and invited John back to oversee its completion. So there's John Ostrom and Jack Horner in the 2000s. Pretty cool. So that's the locality where Deinonychus was found. And it's the rocks there are not the kind of, you know, really nice, shaly, like split open and see the feathers inside kind of rocks. These are more similar to the rocks that I was digging in this summer in Wyoming and Utah, where you're not necessarily going to get that kind of fine scale preservation of stuff like feathers, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Anywho, good stuff. And that reminds me, I did a tweet thread about this back when I was still on Twitter. Let's see. I just had this earlier. I don't know where it went. Must be here. Bingo. This was from last year. It was on this day in 1964 that John H. Ostrom found a dinosaur on the very last day of the field season, a discovery which would change the way we think about dinosaurs forever. Here's a little photo illustration that I put together there. There's John Ostrom back in the 1960s, working on a plaster jacket in the field. And there he is, I think, in the 90s, in that black and white photo. Deinonychus became a superstar under the alias Velociraptor anteropus in Jurassic Park, further cementing its popularity. Yeah. Nowadays, we recognize that Deinonychus, like its close relative Velociraptor, would have had a full coat of feathers, like a giant ground-running bird of prey. And that's a lovely illustration by Gabriele Guetto right there. Yeah, just exquisite. Really lovely. Anywho. Yeah. Murph says, but skin is possible? It would be shocking, honestly, if Deinonychus had scaly skin rather than feathers on most of its body. We've got basically no reason to think that this animal had scaly skin, and every reason to think that it had feathers. Yeah. Oh, I meant you found skin in the rock this summer. Oh, from duckbill dinosaurs, yeah. We think they probably had really thick, tough, pebbly skin, and that may have helped aid in that being preserved. But that being said, it wasn't really the skin that we were finding either. It was impressions of the skin. in like a river sandstone. Different from the mudstone that Deinonychus was found in. So yeah. Anywho, yeah. But yeah. Anywho. And Crimson Carnotaurus says, is it quite the ache to remove the overburden in dig sites? I would imagine you like to minimize use of heavy equipment to prevent potentially damaging the known and other specimens yet to be... Exactly, Crimson Carnotaurus, yeah. We prefer to work with hand tools if we can. Here, I can show you. This summer in Utah, we did a fair bit of overburden, and I think you got to see some of that. Here with the jackhammer.
And let me show you some of the bones that we're finding already. That's pretty soon. Exactly. More about that.
Did we have the jackhammer going during this stream? Maybe not. There was another one when we did.
Yeah, I can. Utah has an incredible assortment of different dinosaurs from.
Let's see here. I think when that would have been. I don't know which one of these it is where we're using the jackhammer, but yeah. Anywho, yeah. Looks like you're making artillery positions with Crimson Carnotaurus, yeah. Or digging foxholes or something. Yeah. And Murph, I remember, yeah, I don't know when that was. I don't know which one of these videos. In which of these do we have Ethan using the jackhammer? But it's one of them. Take a wild guess and say it's this one. No. Don't think it's this one.
But you know, if it weren't, then.
After this one's full, should be ready to there.
There's Ethan right there.
Drink some water though.
Huh. But yeah. Early when you were moving the shelf. We actually used the jackhammer until almost the last day, Murph. I just don't remember which of those days I was streaming. Because I think we got it on camera later in the season, too. I just don't remember exactly which stream it was. There might have only been one stream when we got the jackhammer on camera. Even though we used it probably 6 different days. Out of, like, the full, probably more like 10 days out of the full, like, 21 that we were there. Anywho. Yeah. Let's get rid of some of these tabs here. So somebody was asking about, like, when did we first realize that birds evolved from dinosaurs? And I'm glad you asked that, whoever you were, because Deinonychus was instrumental in that. Here, check it out.
Tops and Stegosaurus. On the following branch are the sauropods.
This is from 2004, from the Dinosaur Feather Mystery.
Also known as Brachiosaurus. The closest relatives of these giants were the bipedal carnivores called the theropods, including Tyrannosaurus rex, Velociraptor, and birds.
Yep.
In the 1960s...
Oh, there we go. Shoot, this is footage from the 1960s of John Ostrom and crew working at that Deinonychus quarry at Rainbow Butte. So here they are on the side of Rainbow Butte. Holy cow. Right there. This is footage from that site.
Ostrom of Yale University discovered another member of this nasty club, the raptor dinosaur Deinonychus. It played a critical role in proving the connection between birds and their theropod ancestors. Dinosaur biologist Jacques Gauthier identifies the similarities between birds and this frightening theropod and demonstrates how its savage hunting habits may have laid the groundwork for flight.
Deinonychus changed us over from the conception of dinosaurs you see in the mural where dinosaurs are overgrown lizards to that these are active, cursorial, ran around for a living, very much more bird-like creatures, and that all stemmed from the description of Deinonychus antirophus. Well, you can just start with the head. Another obvious feature is rather than the teeth going underneath the orbit, it's just primitively the case in theropod dinosaurs. The entire tooth row is in front of the eyes. We're eventually going to make this into a beak. And you look at the forelimbs, you see these much longer arms. Dinosaurs start out with their forearms are only about half the length of their hind legs. Think of the Tyrannosaur up there with really diminutive little hands. As you get into these raptors within the theropods, they start getting these really long arms, as you can see here, that are nearly as long as the legs, with these gigantic mitt-like hands, a three-fingered hand that's fully a third the length of the entire arm. The old reconstructions, as you see here, showing kind of the limp bunny, wrist attitude we've come to appreciate in recent years when we've gotten completely articulated hands, just like birds. All the motion takes place here in the wrist. They flick the hand fore and aft. And what this animal is doing is really playing praying mantis, in that it's holding its arms up folded against its body. The prey item doesn't think it's as close as it is, so to speak. So they have a stereotype motion where they go down and forward, grab their prey, up and back, down and forward, up and back. That's the flight stroke. That's exactly the way birds fly today. And we always wondered, well, how do you get power on the upstroke? They actually make this transformation in a muscle called the supracoracoideus that shoots the arm forward. And in birds, it actually lifts the arm up. But the motion made here is exactly the flight stroke. So these guys are grabbing prey items a considerable distance from their body. The prey item struggles in their grasp, and as a consequence, they stabilize the shoulder joint by fusing the two clavicles together to make a wishbone.
Yep.
And then they have to pull the prey back to them. There's power on the upstroke before you're flying. And so virtually all details of the flight stroke originate before flight. And that's
pretty
the best
cool,
part
right?
about the fossil record. There's no way you'd look at a flying bird today and go, obviously that forelimb came from a raptorial organ used to seize and secure prey. No way you would guess that. That's only the information you can get from the fossil record. These
Pretty
beasts
cool.
were ruling
Pretty
the day,
cool.
and for 180 million years, dinosaurs were out in the daytime, and all the mammals are out at night. And the largest Mesozoic mammals, maybe the size of a possum or something. Most of them are mouse size. So we came out at night and stayed tiny for 180 million years. After the asteroid hit, knocked out at least the big dinosaurs, if not the little ones, the birds. But knocked out the big dinosaurs. That's the only time that mammals had the gumption to climb down out of trees and come out in the daytime. So we're lucky we would not be here.
How did the arm motion of theropod dinosaurs
Good clip. I
evolve
gotta remember
into
that.
the flight stroke of modern birds? To answer that question, Steve Gatesy is exploring just how birds use their bones, muscles, and feathers to fly.
What we're seeing here is a pigeon flying in a wind tunnel. This is the wind tunnel that Ken Dial from the University of Montana made, and he brought it to Harvard so that we could do a collaboration with Ferris Jenkins.
Anyway, very cool stuff. Lovely. Clipper's even better than I remembered. Kind of continuing on that theme.
Advantages to the lives of birds. This hidden complexity makes it even harder to explain how feathers evolved. The answer to the mystery of feather origins lies in fossils from the ancient past and locked within the feather itself.
Yep.
The first clue in the mystery of feather evolution came from the 150-million-year-old rock formations in Solenhofen, Germany. The thin, fine-grained limestone sheets open like the pages of a book written by nature.
So these are the kinds of rocks that you might find fossil feathers in, much more readily than in like mudstone or river sand or something like that. It's in this like extremely fine kind of limestoney sort of lithology that you find delicate things like fossil insects. You get creatures with like an outline still of their like bodily silhouette with the skin and everything, or feathers.
Limestone sheets open like the pages of a book written by nature long, long ago.
Yep.
One day in 1861, a page was turned that would unveil the most famous fossil in the world and a wonder of its age.
Archaeopteryx.
Luis
Yes,
Chiappe,
indeed.
an expert on ancient birds, deciphers these pages of stone.
Well, Archaeopteryx was found in the middle of the 19th century, soon after Charles Darwin published his
good old
book on
Archaeopteryx.
the origin of species. It was found in the midst of a huge controversy, the evolutionary debate, and it played such a critical role in turning this evolutionary debate to our understanding of how animals have transformed over time. It became an icon of evolution, some kind of paleontological Mona Lisa. So definitely the role of Archaeopteryx 150 years
Yes, Archaeopteryx
ago
is found in that
was
same
a
quarry that
role
you saw
of
there,
missing
Petrodactylus and
link,
Solnhofen.
a role of
Yeah.
intermediate between, on the one hand, animals that looked dinosaurian and animals that were birds, modern birds. What was critical at the time is that we have an animal with claws, an animal with teeth, an animal that looks very reptilian, but yet it has modern feathers.
Archaeopteryx was the first bird, but its feathers were already identical in shape and structure to those of living birds, so it tells us nothing about where feathers came from. That answer must be hidden in the ancestors of birds, fierce, meat-eating dinosaurs called theropods.
Yep.
You can look at the history of dinosaurs like a family tree.
It is a family
The
tree.
first branch are the ornithischians.
And this gets into the clip that we just
like
watched.
Triceratops and Stegosaurus. On the following branch are the sauropods, the giant long-necked dinosaurs like Apatosaurus, also known as Brachiosaurus.
Nope. Brontosaurus, also known as Brontosaurus. They got that completely wrong. Brachiosaurus is an entirely different kind of dinosaur. It's not even a diplodocus.
The closest relatives of these giants were the bipedal carnivores called the theropods, including Tyrannosaurus rex, Velociraptor, and birds.
Anyway, now we're getting to the clip that we just watched. Yeah. Anywho. And let's see. Crimson Carnotauruses, Ornithomimus, and Struthiomimus were found in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Were there any proposals linking dinosaurs to birds around that time? There were some even earlier than that, actually. Here, give me a second. Let me put this back, and then I'll talk about it. The very first proposals that birds evolved from dinosaurs came very early on, with people like Thomas Henry Huxley. Here, we'll go over that in this video.
Articulated foot.
Here, let's go back to the beginning of this, because it's definitely worth watching. I'm going to give you the link to this right off the bat, because it is stupendous. Love these videos. I'll be right back. I'm going to run to the bathroom.
Major groups, recognized by key traits. Fish have fins. Some land animals have 4 legs. Others, 6. And several different groups have wings. Biologists have long sought to discover how groups of animals and their key features evolved. And one of the greatest mysteries has been the origin of birds. Our world has more than 10,000 species of birds with feathered wings. Where did birds come from? And how did wings and feathers first arise? To find out, scientists have scoured the fossil record. And they have uncovered surprising twists in the evolution of birds from their flightless ancestors. In the past 30 years, we've found a treasure trove of new fossil discoveries. They've made the origin of birds one of the best documented transitions in the history of life. I'm fascinated by birds. And as a paleontologist, I've spent my career chasing their evolutionary origins in the fossil record. Above all else, what makes birds unique are their wings.
It's a peregrine falcon there.
They're made of feathers that are stiff yet flexible. And bird wings are even more remarkable than airplane wings because they can flap, which allows them to maneuver rapidly and ultimately defy gravity. The quest to understand the origin of birds and other animals began in earnest over 150 years
This gets to our question. Where did birds come from?
When Charles Darwin wrote The Origin of Species, he argued that every major group of animals evolved from a pre-existing one. He predicted that we would find fossils with features that linked one major group to another. In fact, he staked his theory of evolution on the existence of these intermediates.
Yep.
But no fossils were yet known that reveal these transitions. Then, just 2 years later, a marvelous creature was unearthed from a limestone quarry in Germany. The 150-million-year-old fossil named Archaeopteryx rocked the scientific world. This Archaeopteryx fossil is truly remarkable. It preserves in fine detail feathers along the wing, just like those we see in living birds, and feathers along the tail. But the bony features tell a very different story. If we look closely, we'll see teeth in the jaw, tiny claws preserved in the hand, and a long bony tail, lacking in living birds, but present in things we think of as traditionally reptilian.
Anvil's Ghost
It must
says,
have been an incredible.
I thought it was originally found in China. You're thinking of some of the later feathered dinosaurs were found in China around the 1990s. That was a huge discovery. But Archaeopteryx has been known from Bavaria in Germany since the 1860s.
Reptilian.
Yeah.
For Darwin, it must have been an incredible vindication. He predicted that we would find forms like these.
Every bone that we find tells us something about how the world was 80 million years ago, which is
Raptorus, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Good to have you here.
Archaeopteryx pointed to a close link between birds
and you bet,
and
Anvil's Ghost.
reptiles.
It's good to have you here.
But which group of reptiles?
Yeah.
Flying pterosaurs have been discovered with light, hollow bones. But their wings are constructed very differently than the wings of Archaeopteryx and
I'm here
birds.
to applaud the work of vertebrate paleontologists.
Anvil's Ghost, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Follow and the applause, too. Thank you, thank you.
Are constructed very differently than the wings of Archaeopteryx and birds. Here is a tiny pterosaur, and if we take a closer look at its arm, we'll make out 3 small digits, and a 4th, which is really, really long.
The wing finger, yeah. Their ring finger is super elongate like
The
that.
membrane of a pterosaur wing attaches to this 4th digit and along its body and hind limb.
Yep.
In contrast, the wings of Archaeopteryx and birds have only 3 digits, and their feathers attach individually along their arm and hand bones.
Yep.
These
very different wing
tell us
structure.
that pterosaurs and Archaeopteryx evolved flight independently.
Yep.
Archaeopteryx must have descended from different reptiles.
Here we go, Huxley.
Thomas Huxley, Darwin's champion, was astonished by Archaeopteryx's resemblance to a turkey-sized dinosaur called Compsognathus. Compsognathis's hand also had 3 digits. It had hollow bones and stood on 2 legs. Similarities like these led Huxley to propose that birds are related to the branch of reptiles called dinosaurs.
Yep. So Huxley first proposed this way back in the 1860s.
But other scientists questioned this conclusion. Birds appeared so different from dinosaurs, and some characteristic features of birds, like wishbones, seemed to be missing in dinosaurs, but were present in other reptiles.
What could be going on?
Articulated foot.
When paleontologist Jack Horner began his career, few thought that birds could have come from dinosaurs.
So Jack, why was it so hard to believe that birds and dinosaurs were related?
Most of the dinosaurs that the public knew about were really big. Like, you know, this is a shoulder blade of a sauropod, and sauropods were gigantic.
Scientists thought that dinosaurs were cold-blooded,
Hey, Air Boss, how you doing? Welcome, welcome.
like other reptiles.
People couldn't imagine dinosaurs being agile and hopping around. They look at these big giant things and they lumber. There's no way to relate them to birds.
Here we go.
In 1963,
It was actually 1964, but yeah. On this very day in 1964, if Don Glut's book is to be believed, it was on this very day that this discovery took place.
John Ostrom discovered a fossil in the Badlands of Montana that challenged that view.
What John Ostrom first found was this claw. Obviously goes to a foot. It was not a claw for walking on. This dinosaur actually used that claw for slashing.
Or at least for hooking into prey.
Deinonychus was small, with a delicate build. It ran upright on 2 legs. It had a long, stiff tail for balance. Not all dinosaurs were big and lumbering.
Yep. Deinonychus helped change the way we think
Hypothesized
about these.
The animal would scale its prey and start using its slashing claw and probably eating the animal while it was alive.
Pretty cool, right?
Ostrom's discovery set off a revolution. What if dinosaurs weren't slow, but warm-blooded and fast-moving, like birds? When Ostrom compared Deinonychus to Archaeopteryx,
Here we go.
he
This
saw
is the
that
kicker.
they both had lightly built, hollow bones. And they shared even more features, including long arms and similar hip and shoulder bones.
Yep.
Ostrom concluded that birds did descend from dinosaurs, as Huxley had argued. Not from lumbering
There you go, Patrick. Yeah.
sauropods,
Yeah.
but from another lineage called theropods that walked on 2 legs and included T-Rex and agile predators like Deinonychus.
Yep.
While some scientists did not accept this idea at first, supporting evidence continued to accumulate.
So again, I pointed this out the other day, but I worked with a bunch of these people. It's a crew from Montana. There's Brian Baziak right there. I worked with him at Museum of the Rockies. Jade Simon, I worked with her at Montana State University. There's Carrie Woodruff right there, who's leading this dig because it's a sauropod dig, and Carrie works on sauropods. Yeah.
Supporting evidence continued to accumulate.
By the way, Jade right there actually has an Archaeopteryx tattoo. I wish you could see it. It's up on her shoulder. But she has a tattoo of the Berlin specimen of Archaeopteryx. It's the same specimen that you've been seeing in these videos.
Accumulate. including the discovery that theropods had a feature of birds not previously found: a wishbone.
Yep.
People had sort of looked for them and really didn't know what it was going to look like. And then all of a sudden, we started finding them. Here is the wishbone of Tyrannosaurus rex.
Yep. The T-Rex wishbone right there.
When scientists analyzed the skeletons of theropods in birds, they found too many similarities for any explanation but common ancestry. Jack's collection at the Museum of the Rockies offers an opportunity to compare their features.
Here's an Albertosaur tibia.
And it's
as you
hollow.
can see, it's hollow, just like a modern bird.
This is a T-Rex foot. What we see here are 3 forward-facing digits that bear the weight of the animal. And in the back, a much smaller digit.
It's a left foot right there.
If we
It's
take a
digit
look
one.
at this
Yeah.
chicken foot, we'll see the same pattern. We've got 3 forward-facing digits, and on the back, a much smaller one.
Also left foot of a
All
chicken.
dinosaurs share an S-shaped neck. You can see it here and in living birds like this chicken.
New kinds of evidence also emerged. In 1978, Jack made the surprising discovery of a vast dinosaur nesting ground.
Yep.
We discovered that dinosaurs nested in colonies and cared for their young, brought food to their babies. We also had evidence that they came back probably over and over again for many years to the same site.
Call that site fidelity.
In a radical shift by the 1980s, a consensus was finally building that birds descended from theropod dinosaurs.
Yep.
From active predators that walked on 2 legs.
And then the feathers discovery.
But scientists were about to discover the most startling evidence of all. In the mid-1990s, farmers in northeast China began unearthing dinosaurs 120 million years old. And
the
these
Yixian
fossils
Formation in
preserve
Liaoning Province,
astonishing detail.
including feathers.
In 1996, I was a first-year graduate student at my first scientific meeting.
Yep.
They were passing around pictures of this dinosaur.
This chicken-sized theropod, named Sinosauropteryx, did not have scales. It was covered in some primitive kind of feather.
To see those photos of a tiny, fuzzy dinosaur, it just blew everybody's minds.
And so, what's well, here. John Ostrom, who described Deinonychus back in 1969. John Ostrom was a champion of the idea that birds evolved from dinosaurs, and of course that dinosaurs were warm-blooded, active, dynamic creatures. Ostrom was there in 1996 at the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology meeting. I believe that SVP was in New York. I worked with one of John Ostrom's students, one of his former students, this summer in the field, with Glenn Storrs of the Cincinnati Museum. So Glenn was there at the time, and I asked him, is it true, the story of Ostrom seeing the photographs of Sinosauropteryx? And he goes, yes, that's true. The story goes that John Ostrom had been, arguing in favor of dinosaurs having had feathers for years and years, since the discovery of Deinonychus, basically. He thought these critters probably had feathers. But no one had any direct evidence of that, any actual fossil proof that dinosaurs had feathers. And there, in the hallway in between the conference rooms at this big scientific conference, people were passing around these photographs of Sinosauropteryx, like Julia Clark was describing there. And John Ostrom got to see these. It was vindication for him. Yes, dinosaurs had feathers. He was right all along. That mode of thought that began with Deinonychus back in the 1960s, there in the late 1990s, demonstrated. He was right. I asked Glenn Storrs, is it true that John Ostrom cried when he saw that? Tears of joy? And Glenn said, yes, he wept. He was so happy. That's pretty cool. That's scientific discovery for you. Sometimes we have these transcendent moments in science. When the evidence comes together and all of the hard work that you've put into discovering what the ancient world was like, how these creatures lived and evolved, what they looked like, how they behaved, all that stuff. Sometimes you just have a piece of evidence that comes to the fore and pow, there it is. I'm so glad that John Ostrom got to have that before he passed away. Yeah. He helped change the way that we think about dinosaurs through his study of Deinonychus. And yeah, it's one of my favorite stories from the history of dinosaur paleontology. Axeman says, so many people who make great contributions to science never live to see their vindication. It's really satisfying that he got to experience that. Yeah. It is. There's an award that we have in vertebrate paleontology. The Society of Vertebrate Paleontology is this big global organization that vertebrate paleontologists belong to. I'm a member of SVP. I'll be presenting research there at the annual meeting in Minnesota at the end of October. Very excited about that. But one of the things that happens at SVP every year. Calico Court 23, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. One of the things that happens at SVP every year is there's an award ceremony. And every year there's one award given out that is the highest honor that a vertebrate paleontologist can receive. It is like our Nobel Prize, our Medal of Honor, whatever you want to call it. It's called the Romer Simpson Medal. It's named after Alfred Sherwood Romer and George Gaylord Simpson, who were two, giants in the field of vertebrate paleontology. So, the Romer Simpson Medal has had, I think, about 30 recipients over the years. And John Ostrom received it in 1994. So it is wonderful that he was recognized during his lifetime. All too often, people don't see the recognition that they deserve for their discoveries or for their work, for the way that they've contributed to scientific progress. But John Ostrom's story is a happy one. He did have a good sense for how much he drove dinosaur science forward. He was immensely proud of that. He got that award. And he got to see the discovery of feathered dinosaurs, which he had been anticipating for decades prior to that. It's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Anyway, yeah. So I hope that makes sense. It doesn't have anything to do with The Simpsons a little bit. I like The Simpsons because it's a, peak television. It's like the pinnacle of comedy. Not because of the Romer Simpson level. Anyway, let's get back to this. Let's finish out this video here.
This dinosaur was just the first of many fuzzy and feathered theropods to be uncovered. Another, called Caudipteryx, had feathers identical to living birds on its tail and hands, but lacked wings. With the discovery of these
Wait, hang on. Did they say that Caudipteryx lacked wings?
Wings.
No, Caudipteryx had wings. Yeah. Definitely had wings. We see that in some of the other fossils. Some of them have got some of the feathers removed after death, as the animal is decomposing. But, yeah, it certainly seems to have had wings.
With the discovery of these spectacular feathered finds, there was no longer any doubt that birds were related to theropods. But while feathered dinosaurs settled one question, they raised a new one. These animals could not fly. Why were they feathered?
It was long assumed that feathers evolved for flight. But what we found was that clearly feathers predate flight and arose for some other purpose.
Yep, we were talking about this earlier. Yeah. And EM Joseph's very educational and enjoyable stream. Thank you. I'm glad you're having fun here. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Yeah. Neverwinter says Jack Horner and Phil Curry have also won the Romer Simpson medal. Yes. I was there in 2013 when Jack won. I think I was photographed on stage with him. Can we find a photo of that? 2013. I don't know if that's online. Shoot. Anyway, if you ever do find photos of, like, everybody up on stage with Jack, all of his students and various underlings, yeah. I'm up there. It was pretty special. Anyway. And you're an anthropology dropout. Well, welcome, Value Bun, to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Let's continue.
So why did the first feathers evolve?
So we're gonna school. Oh, nice, Value Bun.
That's
awesome.
hard to tell from just the fossil evidence.
I hope you feel at home here.
But living birds may offer answers. Feathers provide insulation, so the first feathers might have helped keep dinosaurs warm. Birds also use colorful feathers in communication, in courtship, and in territorial displays. Dinosaurs may have used feathers in the same way. Feathers likely played different roles at first, and then were modified for flight. The modification of an existing structure for a new use is called co-option. It is a common way that new structures and abilities evolve. Bird wings are modified forelimbs, once used for grabbing and feeding. Just as the walking limbs of land animals are modified fins. and the turtle's shell is a modified rib cage.
Yep.
So the co-option of feathers for flight enabled Archaeopteryx and its relatives to take to the air.
So again, that's a really important point that I want to emphasize here. Feathers did not originally evolve for flight. Feathers evolved for probably a variety of other things. And then that group of dinosaurs that took to the air, the ancestors, direct ancestors of birds, they used something good that they already had, feathers. They used it for flight. Co-opted it, modified it for flight. Does that make sense?
And other features also evolved.
Oh, and you found the picture I was looking for? Is this the... there we go, yeah. Yeah. Dude, where am I in here? Oh, there's Jade Simon. You can see her Archaeopteryx tattoo there like I was talking about. There's Jack in the center. There's the Romer Simpson medal. There's Bodma Zoricht. He was rooming with me at the time. He didn't think he'd get a chance to go to SVP, but then he did get to go. And, anyway, he didn't have a place to stay, so I said, hey, I'll switch my hotel reservation. I'll get 2 beds. Come stay with me. There's Alita Bayul. I used to work with her in the field. There's Liz Friedman Fowler right there. Danny Barda is there behind Sarah Oser. Holly Woodward, she works on histology. That might be me right there. Or right... Actually, that looks like me right here. I think that's me right there. I don't know where Denver is. Oh, there's Denver. His head poking out right there. But yeah, shoot. There are probably 40 different variations on this photo taken with different cameras. But that looks like my forehead right there. Anyway. Yeah. Who's that with the hat on the left? I don't know. I don't know who this is. Yeah. There's Bobby Bosenecker, whaleontologist. Studies fossil whales. Mark Goodwin, right there. Works on pachycephalosaurs. Carrie Woodruff, who works on sauropods, is standing next to me right there. That would make sense, too, that I'm between Denver and Carrie and Jack. Yeah. Brian Baziak right there. We saw him in the quarry earlier. Anyway, yeah. How did you find this, Claire? Nice work. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. And SPR 101st.
Did you ever, though, have a moment where it was kind of heartbreaking?
Thank you for subscribing.
Glue is cheap.
There's Jack right there in that alert. Subscribe for 3 months at tier 1. Is that 3 months at once? SPR 101st? Holy cow. Thank you. I really appreciate that support. Thank you, thank you. Holy cow. That helps put food on my table. This is what I do for my living, believe it or not. This is my full-time job. So thank you. My full-time job is as a dinosaur paleontologist, but I don't make money doing that. I gotta make money somehow, and I do that here on Twitch, so thank you for helping make these streams possible and keeping me off the streets. I appreciate that. Good stuff. Yeah. And Kennedy found the photo. Well, thank you, Kennedy. I really appreciate that. This is a blast from the past. Holy cow. I wish I could see my face, but alas. Yeah. Huh. Anyway. Oh, and Claire Bird, thanks for being here. I appreciate you, Claire. Drive safe going to the store. Yeah. Oh, by the way, no stream tomorrow, Claire. I'm taking tomorrow off to work on my Spinosaur publication, my manuscript for that. So there will be no stream tomorrow. I'll be coming back on Friday. And we'll see if I've got time. I'll try and throw together a game of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's also International Whale Shark Day on Friday, so we'll be talking about whale sharks too. Anyway, I'll see you later, Claire. Thanks for being here. Anyhow. Lydia says you got Mike Wazowski'd. Oh shoot, that's right. That's where was that? Not this. The one where there's a sticker over his face or something, right? Yeah, I don't know if I can find it, but anyway.
But it may not seem like much. 500 bits goes a long way towards supporting science. I'll tweet here on Twitch.
I had to subscribe because Twitch decides to put the commercials at the parts when you go in depth on something. LUL Heck Stats Globe just introduced me to you yesterday. Cheers, man.
I remembered that. SPR 101st. Thank you for the 500 bits. Really appreciate that. Thank you. I was wondering, by the way, is that a reference to the 101st Airborne? The U.S. Army World War II? Yeah. Lordy, I'm sorry. I said Mike's so upsetting. Anyhow. Yeah, let's get back into this.
When we look at evolution after the origin of flight, we see a lot of characteristics of living birds gradually accruing. But not in a simple linear sequence.
Your dad's 101st Airborne. Very cool.
Like
Seems
other dinosaurs,
nice.
this crow-sized bird had large claws.
That's Confuciusornis right there. Yeah, so in life, Confuciusornis would look something like that. Confuciusornis. There we go. I still spelled it wrong. Yeah, something like this, or like that. Yeah.
But like living birds, it had a toothless beak and a short, bony tail.
Oh, gotcha, SBR. Okay.
While this species had teeth,
cool.
Its hand bones were partially
I
fused
appreciate your
to
support.
form a stronger wing.
SBR. Thank you.
And this bird had a large breastbone for well-developed flight muscles, like living birds. But it also had teeth.
We don't find forms that are somehow lockstep intermediate between Archaeopteryx and living birds.
It's not that simple, no.
But we find a diversity of forms we could not have predicted.
Yep. Turns out life's a lot more messy than a simple diagram, you know?
For tens of millions of years, an assortment of scaly dinosaurs, feathered dinosaurs, and many types of birds lived together. Then, 66 million years ago, almost all of these creatures died out.
Yep. Including most of the birds.
A
Over 90% of bird species also died
asteroid
out.
slammed into the planet and triggered a global mass extinction. Only a small group of toothless birds survived.
Yep. And I want to emphasize that here. It was like 94% of bird species also got wiped out at the end of the Cretaceous. 100% of the non-bird dinosaurs and 94% of the bird dinosaurs, of the aves, birds. About 90% of mammal species also got wiped out. I need to ask when this paper is actually going to be published, because this is a figure from something that I think is a manuscript that's still being worked on. It might be in press right now, or maybe it's already come out. I'm not sure. But it'll be nice to actually show this to you in a peer-reviewed publication. But yeah, holy cow, it's that was a rough time to be a critter on planet Earth. Was the end Cretaceous extinction event. Holy cow.
And they evolved into the 10,000 species of birds we see today. We once might have said that the dinosaurs all died out.
Nope.
But now we know that living birds are a lineage of theropod dinosaurs in the same way that we are a lineage of primates.
Yep.
Have dinosaurs gone extinct? Absolutely not. We separate dinosaurs into two groups now. The non-avian dinosaurs, fortunately, have gone extinct. And
we wouldn't be here if
avian
that hadn't
dinosaurs are still alive, making it a beautiful world.
Dinosaurs are still with us. We just call them birds.
Yep. Very cool. And it was John Ostrom and his study of Deinonychus that helped establish that idea. Which is really cool to think about. The way that this dinosaur helped shape our understanding, not just of dinosaurs, not just realizing that these were active, warm-blooded, dynamic animals, but also that they gave rise to birds. It's pretty remarkable for one kind of dinosaur to do that, to spark that kind of realization, but Deinonychus it's a very important dinosaur to the history of dinosaur science. Thanks for celebrating it with me here today. With that being said, it's time to wrap things up here. I'll see everybody on Friday. Don't go away just yet. We're going to do a raid. We're going to go see who else is online right now and doing some science. And, yeah, go clog up their chat for a while with some dinosaur emotes. I'll see you too on Friday, Dr. Irrefutable. Yeah. Oh, and I'll have to go grab the package from upstairs. But yeah, I'll open it then if you're here. Thank you again, whatever it is. And well, Casey Snowart is on right now. Oh, but so is Rhacodactylus. We're gonna go say hello to Rhacodactylus here.
Like the conspiracy that the end.
All right, Rhacodactylus is doing some science. Excellent. Rhako Raid, yeah. Rhacodactylus is one of our stalwart moderators here, and somebody I've got a lot of admiration for. A science-minded individual. His realm of expertise is outside my own. But, oh, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work either. Raid. Rhako. Dactylus. There we go. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Sam Neill from Jurassic Park.
Hi, Sam Neill from Jurassic
Protect
Park.
our fossils, because if they're removed, America loses them forever.
Mary Berry, 1994, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. You're sneaking that follow in right under the wire. Appreciate you. We're going to go check in with Rhacodactylus here and see what he's up to. So everybody, you take care of yourselves, and Mary Berry. I'll be streaming again on Friday. We'll be talking about dinosaurs. We'll also be talking about whale sharks, because Friday is apparently International Whale Shark Day. So we'll be talking about those super cool critters. Until then, everybody, you take care of yourselves.